Good evening, grave robbers, and welcome back to the television graveyard. We're your TV necromancers, Laura Prince and Noah Houlihan, and we have come here tonight to examine the spirits of past television shows to find out which ones could be resurrected, should be resurrected, and which ones should stay doomed. This is a podcast in which we'll analyze the history, the hype, and the aftermath of shows that ran only one season or only one episode. With me, as always, is TV's Noah Houlihan.
You're gonna think I'm a square.
I do think you're a square. Welcome back to Push Nevada.
Yes, this is part 2 of Push Nevada. If you have not listened to part 1 of Push Nevada, I highly recommend you go back and listen to that first. But we are covering one of the granddaddies of alternate reality games, Push Nevada, a one-season wonder over on ABC that was cut short and only ran 7 episodes. And I want to say this. We have been promoting that I'm going to have a really good story at the end of this podcast. Laura has also developed a really good story for the end of this podcast. So you're getting double stories. So get excited. Let's pour one out. So, Laura, what do you have?
I have the Jim Prufrock wouldn't be alive if it weren't for the women.
Okay, that's a mouthful.
I really start to catch on in these last 3 episodes how hard Jim relies on the female characters of the show to survive.
Yes.
So I wanted to honor them.
Right.
So I have orange juice for Dawn. Because, orange juice tends to be for the morning.
Okay.
Like the beginning of a new day.
Right.
I have a shot of 7-Up for the 7C perfect shot of grace.
Okay.
I have some pineapple vodka for his drunk wife, Darlene.
Oh, okay.
Who tries, bless her.
Yeah, all right.
And for Delilah, who is a terrible housewife, I have a fruit garnish.
Oh.
They are candy peach rings, because I could totally see Delilah being like, close enough.
Yeah, it's close
and
enough.
And all of this is in an elegant glass for the grand dames of Push Nevada, Martha and Eunice.
Wonderful. How is it? It looks quite tasty.
Oh, that's really good.
Is it real good?
Yeah, taste it.
Is it real good? Mmm.
It's got a nice tropical, because of the pineapple and...
Oh, yeah. And
it's actually, it could be a little sweeter, but it's actually kind of nice.
Yeah, I think you could have done a little bit more 7-Up. But only a shot makes sense. I have something quite surprising. I have the death and taxes. What I did is I went over to Laura and said, do whatever, and I'll drink it.
I made a beautiful drink that's got this real great vaporwave aesthetic by accident.
Yeah, it's very nice. I'm going to have a little sip here.
It was a total accident.
Before I learn what this is.
Yeah.
Mmm. I'm getting lots of notes of Mountain Dew Baja Blast.
There's other ingredients.
And a slight burn of alcohol, but I can't quite place what the alcohol is.
Good news, it's not tequila.
I know it's not tequila. I'm guessing some sort of clear rum.
No.
No?
Not even a little bit. So that is Mountain Dew Baja Blast.
Okay.
Some lime seltzer.
Okay.
Because I wanted to cut a little bit of the extremeness out of it.
That makes sense.
And then it is a shot that is part pink lemonade vodka.
Oh.
And part 100 proof blue raspberry.
Oh, man. There's no alcohol burn in this at all.
Yeah, there's an entire shot of... I mixed... Because I had pink lemonade vodka left over from a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And I've been buying a lot of those little airport bottles.
Yeah.
Because I like to have them on hand because when we're doing weird cocktails every week, it's kind of nice. But one of those airport bottles is more than a shot.
Yeah.
So if I throw one single shot into a drink, I have a third of a shot left.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then I topped it with the blue raspberry 100 proof liquor.
Yeah, I get a hint of the raspberry in there.
Yeah, the pink lemonade, and then there's a little bit of tiny grenadine at the bottom.
Yes, I see that hiding out.
Which I kind of did more for looks.
Yeah, it's a very pretty drink.
Yeah, it's actually gorgeous. Like, I would order that in a restaurant.
So I'm going to be drunk and hyper soon, so get excited, everybody. It's part 2 of Push Nevada.
I intentionally didn't put 99 bananas in it because I know this is going to be a long episode. This is a sprint, this is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
So.
It is, in fact, a sprint ad, though.
Bum, bum, bum. Okay, so welcome to episode 5, The Letter of the Law.
Yes. So, we start with Dawn, who we now know is the person who kidnapped Jim.
Yes.
Explaining how bullets work.
Yes.
Jim, a .357 silver-tipped hollow point bullet leaves the barrel at a muzzle velocity of 1,290 feet per second. That's a good 100 miles per hour faster than the speed of sound. It cleanly pierces the skull at the point of impact, but then shatters, ripping out vast sections of the brain, including, but not limited to, motor skills, cognitive reasoning, high school Spanish, and the memory of the first time you got laid. Ultimately, Jim, leaving you with an exit wound the size of a cantaloupe in the back of your head, and all this before you're even aware of the fact that I've pulled the trigger.
She doesn't buy that Jim is who he says he is until she threatens to kill him, tells him exactly graphically how she'll do it, and he just keeps saying the truth.
Yeah.
And then we get another montage recap. These montages don't do much to tell you anything about the plot. We just keep getting them.
No.
And then Dawn lowers the gun and says,
But you're either the dumbest or the most honest man I've come across, sticking to your guns like that.
Why not both? Why not the most honest, stupid man?
I think that's what I said. She said that line. And then we get the cold open, and we get a list of the 7 deadly sins.
You mean the theme song?
Yes, yeah. That was the cold open. We get the theme song, and we get a list of the 7 deadly sins with greed missing.
Yes.
This is the first place I mess up.
Yeah.
I call it avarice.
Yeah, I've never heard it called avarice.
I learned it as because I learned wasp leg. They also call it anger, and I learned it as wrath.
Yes, that one I'm familiar with, yeah.
But I learned it as wrath, avarice, sloth, pride, lust, envy, gluttony. And, I didn't look down at my notes. I looked dead at you.
Yeah.
So, I learned that in Brit Lit.
Right.
So I have it listed as avarice, and that is my first mistake.
Yes.
And she says she is ATF, which is American Treasury Fed, DEA, LAPD.
Yes. It is revealed that the episode name is The Letter of the Law.
Yes.
So, we are on, or rather Laura, because I know the answer, is on the lookout for letters.
Mm-hmm. Dawn kind of catches up Prufrock on what she knows. Oswald Wilkes worked for Dwight Sloman. He skimmed $1 million and change a quarter. He puts his money into drugs, real estate, and electronics. We find out Silas Bodnick got greedy and stole. Mm-hmm. And that Dawn knows for a fact Prufrock is not behind any of the murders.
Yes.
And then, so that's where we leave Dawn and Prufrock for right now. And then we have Mary and Shadrach. And Mary calls on Shadrach and she begs him for the Bible. And Shadrach kind of scoffs at how selfish she is.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if this is anything against the actress or the screenwriting. Mary is difficult to pull off.
Yeah, Mary is always in femme fatale mode.
Yeah, and part of it is I can't tell if it's a limitation of the actress or the screenwriting.
Yeah, or the direction. Because I could totally hear, the director being like, you should always be sultry.
Yeah, and then Shadrach kind of shoots at her, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit. So then we go back to Dawn and Prufrock. And Dawn is planning a sting for the next day. So she needs Prufrock to just not be a shit.
Yeah, just do nothing and everything will be fine.
Yeah, because the sting is rigged lottery tickets.
Yes.
So that's what we have going on here. Meanwhile, with Grace arrives at a small craft airport.
Yeah.
And we get a great cameo reveal here.
Yes.
That's not a cameo reveal in 2002.
Yeah, but it super is for us.
The man who is running the small craft airport is Scully from Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yes, how about that?
Like, it's done like a reveal.
Yeah.
Like, he puts down the newspaper and you and I both went, hey!
It's Scully.
And Grace wants to charter a jet. It's a birthday gift from my daddy. And she's playing up that she wants to charter a jet because, daddy said she could have a plane. She might go to... She mentions, like, a bunch of tropical locales that she might go to. Mm-hmm. She is playing spoiled little rich girl, but she knows a lot about planes.
Yes.
So Scully is taken in by her.
Yeah, she legitimately knows a lot about planes for some reason.
Grace knows a lot about anything convenient.
Yeah.
But Scully, she points out a plane she really likes. But that's the only one she can't charter, because it's a fancy plane that belongs to a foreign guy.
Yes.
And Grace is just pretty enough to talk her way onto the plane.
Yes.
And she finds a number of shirts monogrammed M.
Yes.
And finds out that the man who... We find out why she's there. The person who posted this Prufrock's bail in the prior episode, this is their listed address, is this company jet.
Yes.
And then we see a logo for a company.
Yeah, she picks up what looks like a bar of soap, and it's like a circle with like an arch in the middle.
Yes.
It kind of looks like the Comedy Central logo.
Yes, it does.
That's been rotated 90 degrees.
And then I want you to know that my next note is, ha ha ha, 2002, all of Grace's things are monogrammed.
Yes.
I want you to know I had that note.
That's good to know, because Grace is standing there on the phone holding two things that have an engraved G on it.
Yes.
With a G that is spray painted on the phone.
Yes. Can you see where we're getting at here with this?
Yeah, lots of G's, guys. Tons of G's in this Letter of the Law episode.
And Grace is calling Prufrock from a payphone because he ran a background check on Dawn. And we find out she's a Treasury agent. She has a checkered past. And Grace also pleads with Jim that her disciplinary hearing is tomorrow and her suspension's being reviewed, and begs Jim to be by the phone when it is.
Yeah.
So that he can testify in her favor. Mm-hmm. I know he's going to miss the call and ruin her life because he sucks.
It's an interesting prediction.
And then Jim notices all the wives of Push checking their mail at the same time. And this is in the morning, because then he is accosted by Delilah. She offers him breakfast, and he demurs.
Yeah.
Then she offers him tea. And then he goes in, because he's like, ooh, tea.
Yeah, I like tea.
And I was just like, really? This dude. And then while he's with Delilah, Mary comes to Martha's boarding house. And Martha says, he's been waiting for you. And Sloman is in a room.
Yes.
This is not the North Wing.
No.
I want to say, because I think at one point when we were discussing it, you're like, is that the North Wing?
Well, Mary lives there.
Yes.
Because Jim can see her through the window.
And then we get this, scene that is trope. Look what the cat dragged in. I need more time. I have your money. We have that, little scene where Mary begs for more time and says she'll have Sloman's money. The money that was stolen by her, Silas, and Caleb. Mm-hmm. And then we talk about the past of Push a little bit. You're too young to remember. Sloman used to run a brothel. They find out that men will spend more on the dance than on sex because men want the fantasy more than they want actually being with these women.
Yeah.
And that's how I learned a Chicken Ranch is a brothel.
Yes.
Which, if join our Patreon and you'll find Chicken Ranch coming up a second time.
Yes.
And me screaming about it.
On our Crowdfund Crypt episode, so be sure to check that out.
And then Sloman forces Mary to admit she needs him because Sloman's the only person who really knows her.
Right.
So she forces Mary to admit she needs him and say she'll never leave him, which is another, big trope. Mm-hmm. Especially with, a female sex worker of the person who is her, for want of a better term, pimp.
Yes.
Will always use that exploitative language of, you need me, you can't get rid of me, you can't leave me.
Yeah.
It's part of his abuse.
Right.
The suit dudes convene, and I don't know why I have a note that they're all exactly like Kevin from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I think something in their speech patterns reminded me of him.
Okay.
And we find out that whoever the suit guys work for are in competition with the company that paid Jim's bail.
Yes.
Then we get a cute little scene with Jim and Delilah.
Yes.
Delilah is trying to housewife it up, and she burns the waffles.
Yes.
And Jim tells Delilah that 2% of electronics are intended to fail, and he tells her about planned obsolescence.
Yes, so that was a problem back in 2002.
And he kind of says, like...
Maybe it's the iron.
It's brand new.
Companies build a certain percentage of their products to fail. It's called planned obsolescence. Did you follow the directions?
Yeah, I did, but...
Well, and you set the timer.
Uh-huh.
Well, it can't be your fault then. Can it?
Legitimately one of the cutest scenes in the show.
Yeah, it's very nice, because she's clearly upset that she burned it, and she was just like, it's fine.
And he comforts her in a very kind way that's not very... He's not talking down to her or anything. It's this, it can't possibly be your fault.
Right.
And then Delilah tries to get Jim to eat a Pop-Tart, but surprise, that's a euphemism, she's in lingerie.
Yes. And this is where Jim says...
You're going to think I'm square. But I think of marriage as a covenant, a sacred trust. And I won't be a party to breaking it.
I think Jim Prufrock is a cool guy. But he did use the word square, which makes him pretty square.
I think he's in the right in this scene.
Oh, absolutely.
And this isn't a thing you normally hear me say. But he plays it off as... He actually plays it off really nicely. He doesn't make it about Delilah being unattractive.
Yeah.
He doesn't even say he's not attracted to her. He's actually very kind in his rejection of her. Being like... He makes it more about he doesn't want to hurt BRB.
Yes.
Instead of, I don't want you, ew.
Right.
Which, in Delilah's very vulnerable state, is kind of doing her a great kindness. And then we get another scene with Sloman, this one with Dawn. And they're talking business. Dawn tells Sloman, like, our buyer's getting edgy, or our seller's getting edgy, like, we gotta move.
Right.
So, kind of building up that she could be double-crossing Jim, because she's in business with Sloman. And then we get a flashback about Jim's past. Jim's dad never tells his mom where he's going, he just says work. And Jim says, like, I like the office, can I come? And Alfred says, not today, you should take care of your mother. And then the mom goes, someone should. His mom drinks, and Jim steals the keys, and we go... And I go, oh, I guess he's going to hide in the trunk. And you go, turns out his greatest fear is because he's an idiot.
Yeah. So he climbs into the trunk of his dad's car to hide so he can go to the office with him. And something bad happens. Now, we do know that Jim's father died when he was 12. He would be roughly 12 at this time.
Yeah.
So there's a good chance that this is where Jim's father's death happens while he's in the trunk.
Right. And Jim wakes up because it's another nightmare.
Right.
To Martha knocking on his door. She has Shadrach with her.
Yeah.
And he has to install the sculpture that Jim bought, 3 episodes ago?
Yeah. You might have forgotten about this, but he gave $5 to Shadrach so he'd get a sculpture.
I want to point out, we forgot about this and we're binge watching it.
Yeah, for real.
So, we then get another scene with Grace, and this, I really want to talk about this scene. Grace is talking to Dave, someone she's clearly acquainted with who has government clearance.
Yes.
And he says, like, oh, I tried to call you, but the number you gave me was for a meat packing plant. And she very smoothly goes, oh, I get calls for them all the time. It's 1 digit off. I must have written it down wrong. So we get Grace starting to become the femme fatale.
Yeah.
In her own right. On behalf of Jim.
Yes.
And it's very interesting because I find this... We get a lot of moralizing from Jim. And Grace is doing a lot of morally gray things.
Yes.
To subsidize Jim with information. And I find this very... It's why I wanted to theme my drink after the women of Push.
Yeah, because they do not get the credit they deserve.
They really don't. And so I really like her character, but I also do recognize that she does a lot of things that are a little suspect to get Jim what he needs. Mm-hmm. And you love her for it.
I also want to point out that the friend that Grace is talking to has a security badge on that gives him access to something.
With a big old letter G on it.
Big old letter G on it.
Then we go back to Jim's hotel room, and Shadrach was the town controller. Now they're gone. They're all gone. Money in, money out. And Jim knows this is about Shadrach's family who passed away in an explosion. Accidental explosion.
Right.
And Jim says, I lost my father when I was very young. And Shadrach stares sharply at Jim.
Yeah.
And he says, you have to see it all. You have to see the pieces. And I go, oh, this sculpture is going to explain everything.
Yeah.
But then he gave it to Jim.
Yeah, so Jim's just like, oh, thanks. And then the camera pans over it, and in the middle of this sculpture is the Bible.
Yes.
The missing Bible from the vault. Shadrach has given it to Jim. So the meek did, in fact, inherit it.
Yes. Then we actually got a commercial break in our rip, which was fun.
Yes.
We got a Toyota ad with a phone number in it.
Yes, because this show was heavily sponsored by Toyota and Sprint.
Yes.
So there's a Toyota ad where it's like a guy making a deal with the devil, and you see his phone number. And the phone number led somewhere, I don't remember where, but I remember calling it.
Yes.
And the Sprint commercial, I don't remember what the clue is there, but it is, you may remember it from years ago, where it's Siegfried and Roy in a convenience store. This will be important later in a thing I'm going to talk about, but okay. I wanted to just bring up that commercial.
Siegfried and Roy always makes me think of Bat Boy the Musical.
Oh, really?
It's a line in Comfort and Joy. They're talking about, the blessing of the cows, and somebody goes, just like Siegfried and Roy!
We'll have comfort and joy.
I did not think you were going to just start singing along.
I like Bat Boy.
Bat Boy's fantastic. We also have a couple notes from me. The Ring ad. Nope, nope. Is this John Hamm in this Lowe's ad?
It was John Hamm in that
We did look it up. And then there's one of Donald Trump in a McDonald's ad bargaining with Grimace, and I was like, the 45th president of the United States with Grimace.
Yeah.
Selling hamburgers.
Yeah.
Cool. Back to the show.
I probably watched that commercial and thought, there's no way Donald Trump eats McDonald's.
Yeah, that joke's on us.
Yeah.
So we get this scene with Jim and Mary. And Mary is sitting outside the boarding house with a floral suitcase. And she accuses Jim of, hey, living in your black and white good versus evil world must be easy. And then he goes into a monologue about how it's not easy. Being able to bend your rules must be easier.
Oh, this speech is terrible. I usually like Jim Prufrock, but this speech of being like...
Everything always has a way it's supposed to work. And if it doesn't, something's wrong. It needs to be fixed. It must be easy to live in a world like that.
It's not easy. To me, the way most people live is easy. It's easy to act for the moment, to act selfishly, to act out of greed or fear. And that's what's easy. It's easy to come up with flimsy justifications for infidelity, shallow excuses for dishonesty and inaction in the face of wrongdoing.
It's just live in reality, bro.
I have a stick shoved so far up my butthole, no one likes me. Oh, no, that's just my notes. That's not a quote from the show.
That's your notes.
But all I can think of is, in the previous segment, we saw Grace doing all these shades of gray to benefit Jim. Mm-hmm. So you have character, and Dawn is all the shades of gray that is currently benefiting Jim.
Yes.
And Delilah is doing things that are maybe a little morally suspect. Out of attraction to Jim.
Yeah.
So it's all these women doing things that are a little bit suspect to benefit Jim, so that he can moralize and lecture Mary.
Yeah.
Mary admits she did not set Jim up because she wanted to. She admits she did it.
Yeah.
Because we knew Delilah didn't do it.
Yes.
And then he asks for help and to let him help her. And she says, "You are a good and decent man, but in push, those are weaknesses." And then he goes into town.
Yes.
There's this interesting segment of from 4 to 5 p.m., everyone goes shopping. Mm-hmm. And we actually see Dawn and a man talking in what kind of looks like a convenience store. It looks more like a bodega than a supermarket.
Yeah.
Bodega is definitely the best comparison I have. Mm-hmm. And the man drops something into Dawn's shopping basket. The town fills up and empties, and exactly 5, everyone's leaving restaurants with doggy bags, and everyone's leaving with their purchases. Like, it's 5 o'clock, get out.
Yeah, and all the stores close and take their deposit to the bank.
Yeah, and Jim follows a man to the bank. And then they talk about Statute 239A. Mm-hmm. A statute, which is a law. You can see where I go wrong here.
Yeah.
And then we get another shot of Mary pulling up in her car, and it has a giant SS.
Yes.
396. And I was like, oh, they're throwing around a ton of letters.
Oh, the clue is ass.
Or gas.
Figured it out. Ass.
And we see it's Mary's car. And she and Shadrach have a confrontation. And he kind of intentionally misleads her. He says, "They came for it. I don't have it anymore." Which implies that the suit guys have the Bible. But we know the suit guys don't have it.
Right.
But the way he tells her implies they do.
Yes.
Really, we know Jim has the Bible.
Yes.
We know Jim doesn't know he has the Bible.
What's great is the suit guys actually steal like 7 Bibles from Shadrach because he had a bunch of them. Because we get a nice scene of them sitting around a table like holding all these Bibles like, I don't know, which one of these is special?
Right.
That was great.
And then she ransacks his tent. And we go back to the bank. And the bank does not have their legalities in order. They don't give loans. No one's ever requested a loan in Push, Nevada. Deposits outdo withdrawals 10-1. And then Prufrock realizes that the manager had a teller set off the silent alarm. And fortunately, the person who comes is Dawn.
Yes.
She comes in, screams at Prufrock to go outside and get in the car while he goes on a morality rant.
I just witnessed your main street go from ghost town to boom town and back in the course of an hour. People are spending money like it is the night before doomsday. Now, as an officer of the town's sole financial institution, perhaps you can enlighten me as to how exactly any of this makes sense to you. Perfect. Oh, go ahead and arrest me. Get in my way. You know, diversions, distractions, it seems to be the only talent anyone has in this town.
Let's just talk about this outside.
Mm-hmm. It is 5:30 p.m. and she goes, "I should have shot you when I had the chance."
Yeah.
Which, big Dawn energy.
Yeah, like you should be dead right now and life would be great.
She sends him to his room like the bad little boy he is, because the sting goes down tomorrow and she needs it to go well, and she needs Jim to stop screwing everything up.
So his ankle bracelet will now go off if he leaves his room.
Yeah, she goes, it used to be 10 miles, now it's 10 feet.
Yeah.
And then we get another scene with Mary. She drags the bag of money into Sloman, and she says, like, it's all here. And he goes, I don't need to count it, Mary. I know it's all there. But what about the interest and the opportunity cost? She says, you know I don't have very much money. And then he grabs her ass.
Yeah.
And she sees a knife, but she looks at it so obviously that Sloman realizes she looked at it.
Yeah.
And then he says, Daddy wants it, as she unzips her dress.
Oh, does he actually say Daddy wants it?
Yes.
Oh, no.
Remember that. We're going to come back to it in a minute. The suit guys discuss killing Jim as they pore over the 7 Bibles they found in Shadrack's home.
I love that scene. Just like these 3 suits that are supposed to be like all-knowing, all-powerful, surrounded by Bibles going, any of these seem special?
And they discuss whether or not it makes sense to kill Jim.
Right.
And Dawn comes up as Sloman is redressing himself. And she gives Sloman a lottery ticket going like, thought you'd want a taste. And Sloman scratches it off and like looks at Dawn and grins and goes, oh, I won. And they laugh.
Right.
And he asks Dawn to bring Prufrock to the sting. To what he doesn't know is the sting. To the handoff.
Yes.
And Dawn realizes this means Sloman intends to kill Prufrock.
Right.
Grace calls Prufrock. This is where she talks about Dawn's checkered past. And she also ran a background check on Sloman. He's lived in 5 towns, 6 arrests for minor things, no arrests after 1984. And he has 1 child, a daughter, Mary. And then we pan to Mary sobbing in the shower.
Yeah.
Daddy wants it.
Yeah, so he's molesting his own daughter.
Yeah, he is sexually abusing his own daughter.
This seems like an unnecessary punch line. What? This seems like an unnecessary storyline.
I don't like saying it this way, but I feel like we kind of talked about like this is very written by men. Mm-hmm. I almost feel like this is their way of going like, well, this is why Mary's the way she is. Yeah. And I don't love that.
I feel like this is the only moment that makes me as a viewer go, oh, I hope Mary gets out.
Yeah.
Because, and I'm going to say this again over and over again, the problem with Mary is there's nothing likable about her.
No.
For some reason, Jim likes Mary, but Mary has done nothing but screw Jim. And
not in like the good way.
And not in the good way. And like on top of that, we never receive any sort of like reasoning for Mary's motivations.
Right.
Until like right now it's like, oh, I guess this is a reason she'd want to get out. But like we need something like Mary is doing this to save her daughter, or she's doing this because like only she is the one who can put Sloman away, or something. We'd never get those moments where it's like, oh, this is a means to an end that is justified out of Mary as a character.
I don't even think we need her to have like a grand motive. I think we just need to see her be nice to people.
I think she just needs to have a motive.
I think getting like she's a sex worker and she wants to get out of her situation is enough motive. But I think what it's missing is the only sex worker trope this show doesn't hit is hooker with a heart of gold.
Yeah.
We need to see her being nice to other characters, which we don't see. She's unkind to Shadrack. She's unkind to Jim. Mm-hmm. We don't see her as someone we as the audience want to see do well. Mm-hmm. Contrast Delilah. Or Dawn. Or Grace. These characters who we kind of grow to like. Because we see them having, like, doing things that are a little more fun. As far as... and being nice to other characters.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's missing with Mary is we never see her show compassion to anyone else. I don't think it needs to be an external, I have a daughter or I'm abused or...
What I'm kind of saying is, until this moment, you could just have the opinion, oh, Mary's evil. She works for the evil people and is trying to stop Jim.
Yeah.
Like, this is the only moment where you're like, oh, there's something behind her. Just, even if it was a moment where, when she was talking to Jim, that she was real. Like, so even if there was just a moment where she was like, I had a dog. And then she went back to her house and we saw she actually had a picture of a dog. So it's like, okay, she said something to Jim that wasn't a lie.
Yeah, like, we needed to see her be nice to somebody so that we can root for her.
Yeah.
But we don't... like, at this point, the only reason to, like, root for her is that she's also Sloman's victim. And I think that's... I hate rape as backstory.
Yeah.
So I really hate this as a trope of oh, okay, her abusive father has been raping her.
Yeah.
Cool.
Remember when she chained that guy to a bed and left?
Yeah, and left him to die?
That wasn't cool. Why do we like her?
That wasn't cool.
I'm going to walk away.
He died of hypothermia, guys. So I'm going to tell you, gang. The letter in this is G, and this is the one I don't get. This is the one clue I don't get.
Yes, and I actually like your theory better on how to solve this. Laura's going through the episode and writing down every letter.
Yeah.
And we've been given a lot of letters. We have the SS on the car. We have the M on the sleeves of the shirt in the plane.
Dawn's officer number is B7.
Yes.
Statute 239A.
Yes. There's also that whole scene where Delilah's trying to get Jim to go into her house where she's like, do you want tea? I love tea. Tea is great. Yeah, tea would be wonderful. I was like, all right, maybe it's tea. So she's trying to just write down all this stuff and that maybe it would spell stuff. Mm-hmm. But no, the answer's G, just because G is shown a lot. More than any other letter.
So angry.
Yeah. And Laura makes a great point here. The
episode title is Letter of the Law.
Yeah.
They mention a badge number. They mention a statute.
Yeah. Things that are associated with laws. But the one thing that's missing from this episode is Sheriff Gaines.
Yeah. G for Gaines. And he's not mentioned.
Yeah. We will not see him again.
No.
For some reason, he is just gone.
He is mentioned in episode 7, and that's it.
So the fact is you were supposed to get greed out of...
And I got avarice, and 239A was the statute.
Yeah, so the letter is G for this, and that is the clue for episode 5.
Episode 6, still mad about episode 5, is my first note.
Okay. We start with Jim in a trunk again.
It's a nightmare sequence.
Yeah.
He freaks out screaming, and he wakes up to Dawn knocking on his door.
Yes.
Time for your community service. I brought up community service with the judge last night over nachos and margaritas. And Jim is like, I didn't have community service. And I was like, you're so stupid.
Just shut up and listen to Dawn.
Like, Dawn's trying to help you. And she tells Martha he's picking up litter. And Martha goes like, it's a little early for trash collection. And I was like, it's Push Nevada. It's like 5 billion degrees. Wouldn't you do outside stuff like this as early as you could?
Yeah.
Like,
let's wait for the heat of the day.
We're recording in a heat wave, and like a lot of our day is built around when is it a good idea to do stuff.
Right.
And Dawn is cute. She offers to pay the landlady for coffee, and Martha goes like, no charge. And she goes, you boys are witnesses, and points to the invalid that Martha is taking care of.
Yeah, who we haven't really mentioned much, but there's an invalid that, like...
Martha is always taking care of him.
Yes.
I wanted to make sure we brought him up.
Yes.
Because we're gonna talk about him a little more later.
Okay.
So Dawn and Jim have a confrontation where Jim exposes that he had a background check done on her.
Yeah.
And then he talks about, like, the ends justify the means mentality.
This is a great scene. This is a great scene where Jim is calling out Dawn on, like, you've done some nefarious things. And Dawn owns it. She's like, yeah, I had to get the bad guy to trust me, who we are going to arrest later today.
Yeah.
Like, what I'm doing is working. What have you done? Like, I love this conversation where she's basically dressing down Jim like, yeah, I'm doing what is necessary. The things you won't do because you're Mr. Black and White.
If you want to catch criminals, you have to act like one.
You act the part a little too well.
Oh, do you have a better idea?
My lawyer is currently working
Your
on...
lawyer? Wake up, Jimbo. Sloman destroyed your alibi.
Also, they have no way of knowing this, but the ends justify the means. He doesn't know what means Grace has been going through to justify the ends.
Right.
Like, Grace is doing a lot of things that Prufrock probably wouldn't really approve of. Mm-hmm. A Prufrock of. There's about getting mine too. And Dawn points out, like, look, Sloman destroyed your alibi. don't you think he can make evidence against you as well? He goes, well, Sloman's going to come in armed to the teeth. And Dawn's like, so will I, and so will my partner. Mm-hmm. So she has someone else working with them that we haven't met yet. I'm going to just tell you now, he's not a reveal.
No, he's not going to be important. It's not Scully from the airport.
No, that'd be cool. And then Shadrach shows up ranting. And Dawn kind of dismisses him as crazy, but, like, Jim's really looking at him.
Yeah.
And he goes,
water, water everywhere and not a drop to drink. Don't just look, Prufrock. See.
My next note. The sculpture is the key to everything, Jim, you butt wipe.
I love the fact that Shadrach walks by, gives him the hint, water, water everywhere, but not a drop to drink, and then says to him, don't just look, Prufrock, see, knowing full well that Jim is too stupid to have figured it out by now. He's like, he's going to need another push. All right, see it. Like, look at it, damn it.
And then Dawn hands Jim the handkerchief with the map drawn on it and says, why would I give this to you if I wasn't on your side? And gives him back the damning piece of evidence.
It's not so much a damning piece of evidence. It's more of like the key to his story is I followed a map and that's why I found the body of Oswald Wilkes.
Yeah.
And without the map, that story doesn't make a lot of sense.
So then Jim is trying to get Ira Glassman to send a company-wide email to the IRS about what's happening to him in Push. Mm-hmm. Jim hangs up on Ira in frustration when Ira refuses to send out a company-wide email. And then Jim sends the single most obnoxious listserv email of all time to 2,000 people. Students, West Coast universities, East Coast universities, government agencies. He just kind of finds...
He Googles, like, people subscribe to cable at one point and just grabs, like, a list of email addresses. And he's like, I'm sending this out to everybody. And he sends out this email that says, my name is Jim Prufrock. I will probably be dead soon. Please continue my work at Push Nevada. I believe that there's a conspiracy.
Yeah, like, I have the exact text of the email.
Oh, okay.
If you want it. My name is Jim Prufrock, and I have reason to believe that my life is in danger. On September 17th, I received a fax. I've been investigating corruption and murder in a small Nevada town called Push. If the criminal element believes that killing me will derail my investigation, they will be sorely mistaken, as my death or disappearance should serve as a clarion call to all who receive this email to continue my work and look into the dealings of Dwight Sloman and Watermark Consolidated, both of whom I believe are behind the mystery of Push Nevada. Best regards, Jim Prufrock.
Now, I don't remember this completely, but I'm pretty sure that before this episode aired, I received this email.
Oh, that's cool.
Like, that was part of the game. Is all of a sudden, like, I got a random email from Jim Prufrock, like, hey, I'm about to die. And I was like, ooh, I can't wait for the next episode.
And Jim looks at the sculpture again and sees all the water.
He sees all these, like, half-filled, quasi-filled water bottles.
And then we realize that, like, we see Morse code. And, like, the key for this one is Morse code.
Yeah, so, yeah, now we're talking about the intro.
Yeah.
In the intro...
All of this was pre-intro.
Yeah.
The intro's really late in this episode.
Yes.
That's probably why we thought this episode ran short when we watched it, because the intro was so late in the episode. It was so late.
Yeah, and then in the intro we see Morse code, and Laura is like... We're pausing it and Laura's decoding it. And every time she decodes something, she gets more angry. She's like, this is orange.
It's all the prior clues except for the 1045.
Yes. So all the
including Jade.
Yeah, all the clues from the previous episodes are being shown in Morse code to us throughout the intro sequence. Then we have a surprise appearance. Someone I didn't think we were going to see again. Jim's lawyer still exists.
Jameson Jones.
We haven't seen him in so long. And he's like on an elliptical?
Yeah, he's on the treadmill and he's just advising Jim to lay low.
He's like, Jim, can you do me a favor, not be real stupid? He's like, no, I'm going to send an email out to the world.
And then Jim finds in the sculpture a file.
Yes.
Because Shadrach is a bro.
Yes.
And Shadrach
is such a cool character.
And Jim is able to saw off his ankle bracelet.
Yes.
And then we start seeing people get the email. My only caveat with this scene is so much of this is not how people used email in 2002. Like, someone sees it on their phone. I was like, phone with internet in 2002?
It was a Sprint phone.
You're smashing that end button so your mom don't kill you.
Sprint phone.
I had a cell phone. No, I didn't have a cell phone yet in 2002. I was baby. But, like, in the early days before data plans were commonplace, if you accidentally hit that internet button, it was frantic. And, oh my God, please don't charge my parents for this.
Yeah.
So, somebody's, like, doing it while they're cooking, and I was like, people didn't have their computers next to them when they were cooking at this time in their lives.
Yeah.
No one was as attached to their email in 2002, but I guess they didn't want to show a montage of just, like, people sitting at their computers because it's boring.
Yeah.
Jameson reads it, and he is mildly concerned / irritated. Jim goes to the post office, and we get this, like, weird scene.
My note just says weird post office.
About naming your own price to send something
Yeah.
overnight.
He's trying to send the evidence to his lawyer. The handkerchief and stuff. And he's like, I want to send this overnight. And they're like, okay, we'll send it as fast as possible. How much do you want to pay? He's like, overnight? He's like, well, you have to bid, and then in an hour, you'll
In
find
10
out.
minutes. It's only 10 minutes.
Oh, is it 10 minutes?
But since he has to be somewhere at 2 for the sting, he doesn't have time. And then the clerk is like, oh yeah, older people will wait, but young people don't like the 10 minutes it takes to get your bid accepted. There is no point to the scene.
I assume something would happen later in another episode about, like, why the mail works this way, but it's just weird for the sake of weird in terms of the context of what we get.
So then the suit guys are freaking out over the email. They try to find a common denominator with who Jim sent it to, and they're like, no, it was random people.
It's truly at random.
Random freaking people. Awesome. And I have, like, there's finally stakes and stuff, but it did take way too long for stakes to kick in.
Yeah, and I'll bring this up now. Like, so much of the first half of Push to Nevada, the question is, what is going on?
Yeah.
It's just like, why is this happening? I don't know. Why is this happening? I don't know. How is this happening? I don't know. Those are the questions you're kind of living with. Now we're in a situation where it's like, is Dawn on Jim's side or Sloman's side? Now you can have a conversation. Now you can be like, well, there's this evidence that Dawn's for Jim and this evidence that she's for Sloman. I think this, I could see why it could be that. Like, now you can actually talk about the show.
Yes.
Because everything's not so, like, wildly open-ended.
Yes. And I think that's really, really important to making this show work.
Agreed.
And Jim is talking to Shadrach, and Jim is, like, still dumb and is trying to get information out of Shadrach. And then the suit guys pull up, and Shadrach starts screaming about the power invested in him by the Attorney General of the great state of Nevada.
Yes.
Because Shadrach used to be the town controller. Mm-hmm. So you see him kind of reverting, and then the suit guys drive away, and Jim follows them.
Yes.
And we get Grace reminding Jim that she is en route. Grace reminds Jim about her disciplinary hearing, and of course he's gonna help her.
Yes.
And so then the suit guys are still in panic freefall. They're freaked out because all of their research implied that Jim would have left by now. But they did not count on him being, they say, more resourceful than we thought. Mm-hmm. My notes say he's a non-compliant dumbass.
Yeah.
Eliminating him is now too hard because out of the 2,000 people he sent it to, they have statistically 600 of them will read the email.
Yes.
They said, 1,300 people will delete it unread.
Yeah.
It won't reach another 150 people because of dead email addresses or what have you.
Mm-hmm. But, like, now it's costly to kill him because there are people who are aware of him and would look for him if he suddenly died.
But they're panicking, they gas up their cars and then leave. And then Jim hits the receipt button.
I think this is kind of a cool move.
This is one of the only truly smart things Jim does.
Yeah, Jim gets the receipt, so now he knows the credit card information of the one suit.
Yes.
So he ends up calling to figure out whose card it is. So he calls like card services.
Yes, for an account balance.
We kind of went over skipped over this part. The 4 suits, or the 3 suits, are in 3 different cars. Mm-hmm. They all pull up behind each other and fill up their cars at the same time. And they they like jump on the phone, but they're only talking to each other.
They're on a conference call with corporate.
Is corporate on that line, or were they only talking to each other?
No, they're on the line with corporate, because corporate's the one that tells them about the 2,000 people.
Okay.
Because we also skipped a really important scene.
I apologize.
Right after Jim gets the gas receipt, but before he calls, the suit guys are with Sloman, trying to convince Sloman not to kill Prufrock.
Right.
And Sloman's like, I don't know about my business with you guys. I don't know if it's working out. And the suit guys go like, well, hopefully it won't come to that. And I have a note of like, double crossing the scary shadow organization is really smart, Sloman.
Yeah, don't do that.
Like, not only are you going to double cross them, but you've pretty much gone like, sure am going to double cross y'all.
Yeah, I'm super high on my own supply of how powerful I am that I think I can take out this whole security operation that's going on.
And while Jim is calling account services, he's also on the phone with the IRS with Grace's hearing. Mm-hmm. And we find out how Grace got her job. And Grace was just super into tax law. She showed up to like a public Q&A, knew everything, and then asked about jobs. Prufrock recommended her for a position, mm-hmm. and then told HR to expect her application.
Yes.
And so they go, oh, so Grace has a history of it going around the system. No other applicant had someone on the inside mm-hmm. saying, expect their application.
And they're like, thank you, sir. And then that's just the end of the conversation. And then Jim goes back to talking to the this credit card company. And
the suit guys poop their pants when they realize what Jim is doing, because they can see and hear him.
Yes. And there's this moment where they're like, what's the name on the card? And Jim just goes, it's my company card.
It's my Watermark corporate card.
No, he just says company. Because then the cell phone people say, I can see it's the Watermark company card, but I don't have a name. And then Jim hangs up.
Yeah.
Because now he knows that the 3 suits are Watermark.
Yes.
Jim is pretending to be
a suit
guy so he can get information from this credit card company.
So he's committing identity fraud.
This is identity fraud. My question to you is this the writers not really like paying attention, like, that's not that bad, that's not him being morally gray? Or has he grown as a character?
I'd love to think he has grown as a character. I think it's the writers getting a little sloppy.
I think so too. Like, I want to give them credit for like Jim having this moment where he's like, I'm gonna have to play a little bit dirty. I would have loved if he did this and then like immediately went to confession.
Yeah.
Like, he like the fact that he did this tiny little thing that's a shade of gray just ate at him.
Yeah, like, I almost feel like the writers realized that Grace was getting her disciplinary hearing at that time and couldn't have Grace do it.
That's true.
I honestly think that's why he does it.
To be honest, like, if Grace was not, he would have called and been like, I need you to check out this credit card.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So right. I genuinely think it's sloppy writing. So Mary shows up to his room in lingerie, and she comes on to Prufrock hard.
Yes.
And Prufrock kind of rebuffs her and goes like, Mary, I know Sloman's your father. I can help you. Mm-hmm. You have to tell me what you know. She claims that she's never heard of Watermark, and he then tries to throw her out of his room. He asks her about BRB. She says they'd kill her if they knew he told her, or knew she told him. I want to point out this is another bad writing. Mary was so savvy about whispering when she was with Caleb. And she's just outright like, blah, 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 in this scene.
She doesn't say anything that's true in this scene. She comes on to Jim, and she says something like, I'm not used to flirting with men I'm actually attracted to, which is BS. Mm-hmm. And then she claims to know nothing. And then when he tries to leave, she says, all right, I'll tell you, I have a journal in my room that has all the information.
Right.
And then Jim goes to get it, and she's like, my room is unlocked. It's under the bed.
I'm not allowed to lock my door.
Yeah. And then leaves. She doesn't give up any information there.
Right, but we don't know that at this point. We think she's telling Jim where to find this journal, and that her room is unlocked. You think a suit guy wouldn't be on it?
Right, well, what I'm more saying here is, if she was giving up any important information here, she would have whispered.
Yeah.
Because she's not saying anything that is true, because there is no journal.
Right.
Because Jim will leave and find her room locked and come back and find Mary gone.
But what I'm saying is we don't know that at this point.
Right.
So it looks like Mary's an idiot.
Right, and I think that's fine.
Yeah, it was something I noticed.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think if you were into the show, because I know this isn't your favorite show, I would read that as a clue of she's lying or she'd be whispering.
Yeah. Instead, at this point, Mary has been so badly characterized, and the writing in this episode feels so much sloppier.
Yeah.
That I kind of like, oh, Mary's dumb.
Gotcha.
So, we then see Mary grab the Bible from the sculpture.
Do we actually see it?
Yes.
Okay, because I know we have to get out the big reveal that happens.
Yeah, Prufrock leaves. She immediately goes, she sees the Bible in the sculpture and grabs it. And then we see Jameson Jones.
Yes.
In Watermark with the suit guys. Infuriated.
Yeah, it turns out he's the leader. He's not really Jim's lawyer. He's the head of Watermark.
And then Jim comes back to find Martha changing his sheets. And Martha is big mad about him having a lady over for carnal activities.
Well, I just want to point this out because I thought it was funny. When Jameson Jones is talking to the suits, they decide to watch old footage of something.
Yeah.
Which blocks out the live feed of Mary stealing the Bible.
Yeah.
So while they're watching something else, they're like, oh, the Bible's in the sculpture. Go back live. And they go back live and the Bible's gone.
Yeah.
I enjoy all of that, like, comedy of errors.
Oh, yeah.
That's happening.
The suit guys are not great at their job.
To be honest, they were doing a great job until Jameson Jones showed up at that moment.
That's true. So then they said, like, all resources must be focused on finding Mary Sloman.
Yes.
And
because now that we know who she is, they start using her last name.
And then they say, like, we need everything on Jim Prufrock. We need conversations he overheard in utero.
Yes.
And so we find out some more information about Jim. We find out he was born August 24th, 1973, to Alfred M. Prufrock and Janine Prufrock. Alfred died by suicide, which we know what that means in Push.
Yeah, that means nothing in Push.
When James was 12. He then got very into his studies. He quit everything but math club. He canceled his subscriptions to New Mutants and Spider-Man.
Which made me giggle.
He cannot be co-opted, dissuaded, or reasoned with, and he's taken silence in a highly ordered world of absolutes. And then he worked very hard for his SATs and was taking practice exams from his freshman year on. He got a 1580, to which I have the note. I got a 1440 and I did nothing.
Yeah.
So, okay, Jim. So I'm smarter than Jim.
No kidding.
And we realize it's almost 2 p.m. when all this is happening. And Jim answers the phone. It's the IRS. And he admits he did not tell Grace specifically to run the 7C, but that he implicitly trusts her judgment.
It's also important that Jim gets this phone call when he's about to just walk up on BRB and the suits having a conversation. He's like, I'm going to find out what's going on. He's just walking up. And then his phone goes off. He's like, ah. And BRB and the suits look at him. He's like, give me a sec. Hello, Jim Prufrock. And then he's forced to talk on Grace's behalf. He still takes the call, which is nice.
Yeah.
Because he's like not in the best spot. And the suits just are like, is he this stupid? And they all just like slowly walk over to him and like surround him.
Yeah.
And then Dawn shows up to save the day.
Yes. And she is back to folksy variant Dawn.
Yes.
Hey there, Jimbo. Did you lose this? Hey there, fellas. Did you hear we got a prisoner on the loose?
I've been chasing him all over the county, and I think it's time we lock him up again. Okay. Hope y'all have sunscreen on out here. Get in the car.
Love this.
I love this trope of using underestimation as your armor of she comes across kind of dumb. Mm-hmm. We know she's not, but the suit guys don't know she's not.
It's very, what is that film? Fargo.
Yes. Absolutely. And he goes, how did you know where to find me? She goes, oh, when you wrote down high water trucking, you left an impression on the legal pad. And then she says something I hate. She goes, I saw it on TV once. And I was like, or she could be a good investigator.
Yes.
You don't need to undercut her like this. That's actually, I have the note, why did they make her undercut herself like this? And then Jim asks her to pull over and he wants to make one last phone call before the sting.
Yes.
And it's to his own house. And he tells Darlene, we both said and did things we're not proud of. I want you to know that the years we spent together were the happiest time in my life. That's it. I have the note. He does not tell her he loves her.
No, he doesn't.
Which I wanted to note. Like, if you think there's a good chance you will die, and you are calling someone and you do not say that.
Yeah. Interesting point.
And then we cut to Mary. And Mary's the Bible and she's in the desert and sees that there are words cut out. There's probably a rhyme or reason, but Mary clearly doesn't know it.
Yeah.
And then we go back to Dawn and Prufrock. And she cheerfully announces to Sloman, I caught him nosing around City Hall. Jim's like, people know I'm here. And
Jim's never been more of a square than in this scene.
And he says, like, Sloman wants to sample one of the 550 winning lottery tickets that are worth $1.5 million. And Sloman makes Jim scratch the ticket, and Jim goes to who we know is Dawn's partner.
Yeah.
And he says, I want you to know I'm doing this under duress. And her partner goes, yeah, sure, whatever.
I don't care. We're all doing crimes.
Crimes?
Like, he says it to him like, I want you to know that I'm doing this under duress. As if there will be a situation where Jim is tried for this. And this criminal's like, yeah, man, Jim Prufrock, straight and narrow, did not want to touch the illegal lottery tickets I made and brought.
So it's a $50K winner, and Sloman takes the bag in slow-mo.
Yes, because the moment he grabs it,
Dawn's gonna arrest him.
Dawn can arrest him. And just...
Jim's phone rings, and it's the IRS, and he doesn't take the call.
I mean...
He can't.
He can't.
But we see Grace
secretary
crying.
Yeah.
And then Sloman goes, okay, Dawn, here's what happened. Prufrock stole this lottery ticket, or forged this lottery ticket, and he's going to take this money and skip town. You need to shoot him.
Jim's like, nuh-uh, and he throws the ticket on the ground.
He tried to leave town, stole this winning lottery ticket as a source of cash to flee the country.
Wait a minute.
You hunted him down. When you confronted him, he pulled the gun, fired at you, and ran.
I don't have a gun.
We'll give you one after.
Hey.
And kind of does a thing where he's like, this guy's a witness. He knows that I'm a good man.
Dawn tells Jim to run, and then she shoots him 3 times.
In the back.
In the back. And then we established earlier in the scene he complains about being hot, and I immediately go, he's wearing a vest.
Yeah.
And then Sloman goes, you have to shoot him in the head.
Yeah.
And so Dawn goes, sorry, but you have to die, Prufrock. And that's the end of this episode.
Yes.
And then the next on push is a desperate saving throw from ABC, because they only show women in underwear flirting with Jim.
Yes, this is very true. It should be noted that they're canceled already, right? They were canceled after...
Interestingly, they were canceled in what we decided was the break between part 1 and part 2.
They're canceled after episode 4.
They are canceled after episode 4.
So this is kind of like a scramble to save the show.
It's a scramble to get the show enough viewers for the finale, essentially.
Yes. One thing I wanted to point out here is at one point Sloman says something like, if I do anything fishy, there'll be hell to pay. Mm-hmm. I've already paid.
Yeah.
So they kind of imply that he's in line with Satan.
Yes.
Which is possible, because we don't really understand this town.
Yeah.
Like, this could get supernatural in a moment.
Absolutely.
So, like, I just wanted to kind of point a light on that line. You may notice, if you're, dear listener, as you're listening to this, that we always point out the clues and stuff.
Yeah.
We didn't get any clues this episode.
All the clues were in the
opening segment.
Yeah.
Or the title theme.
The title is SOS, but it is done as Morse code.
Yes.
The clue is Morse code.
The clue is Morse code. And, like, I'm sure there is something in here that we missed during this 45-minute show.
Yeah.
But, like, Laura's playing the game as we're watching.
Yeah.
And, like, is looking for clues. I played this game when it was live, and I know what the answer is. And even knowing, like, I was like, is the music gonna be Morse code? Are they gonna rap on something? Is it gonna say ... somewhere? Couldn't find a damn thing.
The knocking, because there's a bunch of times where someone's knocking at Jim's door.
Yeah. Maybe that was, but...
It's never clear Morse code.
Yeah.
All right. So we are at how charming, a finale.
Yes.
The first thing that goes up is a card announcing log into abc.com for revised Push Nevada contest rules.
Yeah, because the rules have completely changed.
Because they're not running the last 6 episodes that were planned for this run.
Right.
So then Sloman goads Dawn and shoots who we know to be her partner. And then Dawn and Sloman shoot one another at point blank range.
Yes. What you say?
And then I crack up. And then after only about 2 minutes this time, we get the opening titles. This one is called Jim's Domain.
Yes.
So that implies website.
Yes.
Already.
So you got that immediately?
Yes.
Very good. Very good.
Because with this show, I was like, oh, it makes super sense that it would be a website.
Yeah.
And Jim sits up like he's the Undertaker.
Yeah.
And crawls over to Dawn and comforts her that help is coming. But then Sloman also sits up. Because he was
like
also
the
wearing
Undertaker.
a vest.
More Undertaker-ly than Jim does.
And then they were about to shoot one another again, and then a giant IRS helicopter comes in.
Yeah, the IRS helicopter shows up. It's like, this is the IRS. Drop your weapon.
You know.
What?
And then Dawn's like, yeah, I'm good. The bullet passed clear through. And I was like, why were you not wearing a vest?
But, like really think about the IRS helicopter.
Oh, my next note is LOL and IRS copter. Do they have those?
Like, that would be like if a tank rolled up and was like, these are lifeguards. I was like, wait, what do you mean?
Just like a giant tank, like, we're the teachers union.
Why? Stop where you are. Okay. I mean, you still have a helicopter, but what are you going to do?
And then a big burly IRS agent is like, so we should have been communicating real good, but weren't. It was really, really embarrassing.
Yeah, there's 3 people all working the same case and none of them knew about each other, which is the plot of Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
And then Prufrock goes, you don't look like an IRS agent. And the guy goes, neither do you.
Yeah, you don't get to go in the helicopter now.
And then we kind of find out, like, the mob was in on everything, and that the casino is the mechanism Sloman used to launder money back into businesses Sloman owned.
I love this.
The mules don't know they're mules.
It actually makes sense, is the idea that they were trying to launder mob money.
Yeah.
So they threw it in a casino that were won by real people in a town where every business is owned by this guy.
Yes.
So, like, they just get all the money back that way, and it looks very legal. So I was like, it kind of makes sense, which I was not expecting.
The locals win big.
Mm-hmm.
And they spend money at local businesses, so then Sloman and Sal make money. Sheriff Gaines, remember him, he's going to be encouraged to resign, and they're looking into getting competent law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see the suit guys being arrested.
Yes.
And then we see a bunch of bankers boxes where it says www.toyota18.com.
Yes, very blatant.
This is the least blatant of the 4 times we see it.
Yes.
But Jim can't let it go because he still doesn't know who sent the fax. And Dawn goes, we caught the bad guy. Let it go. And then we get a scene between Mary and Job. Mary asks Job to hide the Bible, and Job is an honest man, and Mary just leaves the Bible on the table and leaves.
Yeah, she says, I understand if you just leave this here.
Yes.
And that's exactly what Job does. It just sits there.
Yes, for now. And then Jim returns to his room at the boarding house, and Delilah is in the room, in lingerie, in like a corset, and he goes, "You never had the chance to try my waffles."
Yeah, which, by the way, using waffle as slang for sex is a terrible idea. Because in 2002, that famous internet image of the blue waffle would have been making the rounds.
Yeah. Yep. Ugh.
But she's like, yeah, try my waffles. And Jim's like, no, I'm a square. We're not doing this.
And Delilah says, like, I'm leaving BRB. And he goes, I'm sorry to hear that. And Delilah begs Jim to take her with him. And he encourages her to leave BRB on her own because she's strong. And I went, oh, Delilah's a biblical name, like Job. I'm dumb.
Wow. Yeah, I never got that either.
My note is literally, oh, duh, biblical name, Job, Mary, Delilah.
Yeah, Delilah, because she's the one who cuts off Samson's hair.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem to really mean anything, but I noticed it. BRB slams the door and yells, he's like eating a sandwich, and he takes Delilah home.
Yes.
Jim goes then to BRB's house, and he offers Jim a bite of sandwich, and BRB apologizes to Jim about Delilah, saying like, I don't know what's with her recently. She's bored. I keep telling her to go like correspond at school or something.
Yeah.
Which he hasn't been. She brought that up.
Yes.
And my next note is, oh, poor Delilah.
Yeah, he also tries to like paint this story of like, isn't it crazy how we both thought to come say goodbye to you at the same time? Like trying to erase what he clearly knows what she was trying to do.
Yes. And my next note is poor Delilah. And then Jim is checking out of the boarding house, and he looks at the north wing one more time, and Martha goes, sounds like you broke that poor little girl's heart. Jim tries to put the room on his credit card, and she says, my fees fluctuate based on my mood. Leave me your address, I'll send the bill when I figure it out. Yeah. Kind of implying that she's never going to send him a bill.
Oh, is that what you got from that?
Yes.
I kind of took it like the hotel works the same way as the post office. Where it's just kind of like, yeah, the I don't have a rate. It's just whatever's happening at that moment.
I would think that, except then the next thing she does is gives Jim some soup for the road.
Yes.
And tucks a handkerchief into his pocket.
While he's not looking, because he's the least observant man in the world.
And we can guess that it's the handkerchief we saw a few episodes ago that belongs to his father.
Yes. And in this shot, they make it very clear. The way it's shot is actually pretty good. Jim is putting down the soup. Mm-hmm. Leaning in through the window is her putting the handkerchief in. And then, like, in that side window part is the invalid.
Yes.
Who's staring.
Yes.
And that's where I write down, is that his dad? Is that Jim's dad as the invalid?
Yeah, we do see the invalid pointedly in this shot.
So that was my running theory.
And then Prufrock finally bids goodbye to Mary. He got a second chance at life. He goes to Sloman's. She asks him to dance, and they do. And they talk about how they got a second chance of life today. And he says, was our attraction an act to you? Mary kisses him, and she goes, what do you think? And he goes, I should go. And she goes, you should. You're right. Hope you found what you were looking for. Goodbye, Mary. You suck, and I hate you.
Yeah, all of this is stupid. It was like, you're a sex worker. Like, of course you've kissed men. Like, what do you think? Let me use the thing I do for my job to prove to you. Like, again, like, she needed something that made her a real person.
They needed to talk about something that wasn't push. Like, they needed to bond over something.
Yes, she should have a dog.
Or literally anything.
Yeah, the goldfish.
And then Jim is checking up with his car with Job before he leaves, and they talk about Shadrach's sculpture.
Quite a sculpture.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks better when it's assembled.
You gonna be able to put it back together?
Yeah. I think so. I have all the pieces. It's just a matter of fitting slot A into slot B, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, as long as you got all the pieces.
And then my next note, oh, Job totally gave back the Bible. And then the next shot, we see the Bible laying on the back seat.
Yeah, I misread that. I actually thought it was like him driving away without it.
No.
But it's in the back seat of his car.
Yes,
Okay.
Job just quietly gives Jim back the Bible.
Yeah, he's an honest man. Editor Noah here just wanted to clarify something I found in editing. When Jim and Job have this conversation about the sculpture and having all the parts, they actually then make a point to show that Jim drives away without the Bible. So while Job may be implying that he needs all the pieces, he does not actually give him one of the most important pieces, and that being the Bible. It's just a little mistake. It's easy to see that it's implied that he would give him the Bible, but he doesn't. Jim, in fact, drives off without it. Just wanted to clarify that.
Jim actually leaves the stupid town!
Yeah, this blew my mind because when I was watching this, when it was live, we had 100 theories on why Jim Prufrock couldn't leave Push Nevada.
Yeah.
We were like, it must be impossible. Like, there's a force field, it's not a real place, all the roads don't lead out, something. And so when he's like, I'm back, it was like, oh, let's cross all these ideas out of the old theory notebook.
So he leaves, and then we see him pull up at the IRS. Clearly it's like the next day or something, because he's coming back to work. And Myrna is still at Grace's desk, and Jim has a reserved parking spot.
Yeah.
And she goes like, I work here, I'm Jim Prufrock. And Myrna gets flustered.
Yeah.
Why don't I get Mr. Man?
Yeah, Mr. Man, who's a new character.
And then Ira is sitting at Jim's desk.
And
he's surprised to see Jim back, but he's not like thrilled about it.
Yeah, he's very weird.
Yeah.
And he says, oh, Jim, you're back. Fantastic-terrific.
Yeah, like he's real square. He's squarer than Jim.
Yes, which is hard.
And then we meet Mitch Mann, who is the new director of the office. And he's pleasant and amiable. He's like kind of a good old boy sense about him.
Yeah.
And he goes like, and we find out that Ira got demoted to Jim's old job.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim is now going to be the director of tax investigation. He's getting Ira's job. And Jim doesn't feel great about it. And he goes, no, he's like, come on, we have a reception. I mean, it's just coffee and donuts, but it's a party.
Yeah.
But
Hold up. I'm flattered by the offer, but before I accept, I have a few...
I'm sure you got a lot of questions.
Not questions.
Concerns.
Demands.
I was like, oh, who's this guy showing up all of a sudden with demands?
And he wants to be able to investigate 3 cases a year with no interference. And then he threatens to go private sector. And Mitch Mann clearly wants push behind them. He is going to give Jim anything he wants. Mm-hmm. And we see Myrna on her computer, and we see she's, like, Googling something. Mm-hmm. She's using, like, net search. She's using an off-brand Google. Yeah. But we see the Toyota 18 domain name in her search bar.
Yes. Laura nails it again.
And I was like, my next note, these clues are much more blatant than the last few.
Mm-hmm.
Myrna then rushes up and tries to give Jim coffee, which he doesn't drink.
Mm-hmm.
And then Darlene shows up. She goes, someone from the office called to let me know you got this promotion. He goes, who? And he goes, someone. My theory is that it's Myrna.
Yeah.
And Darlene thought she'd be happy to see him. And he goes, I'll see you at home. And he goes, I'm just surprised, is all. Why are you staying at my house? And he goes, she says, it used to be my house too, Jimmy. I was hoping it could be again. And I went, so Grace doesn't even get the guy? Jim's on the phone with Grace, and we realize she's at a shooting range.
Yeah.
She's, like, wearing the protective goggles, but she's not, like, in a lane.
Yeah.
Like, she's clearly, like, paid, and she's, like, getting ready to head to her lane. And he goes, like, I don't even know how to decorate the office. I can't tell greens apart.
Yes.
I was like, you couldn't pack your own phone charger or send your own alimony checks either. Like, what good are you?
Yeah, I'm not sure if we mentioned this, but one of Jim's demands is for Grace to come back.
Yes. And Grace goes, paint the walls white, stay away from stripes, do the couch in navy.
Yeah.
And he's like, you can come back. I negotiated. You're going to get, like, double the money. And she goes, it's not about the money. It's about the principle. I ran the 7C. The 1040s didn't exist. And then 48 hours later, they turned up. And he goes, it's going to be a newer, friendlier IRS. And she goes, you really believe that, don't you?
Yeah.
And then she goes, great opportunities make me nervous. Or maybe it's a hormonal imbalance. Again, the writers of the show have to find a way to undercut any competent female character. It's right up there with, I saw that on TV once. I'm like, or Grace and Dawn are good at stuff.
Yeah, why can't they just be good at stuff?
Grace does not take the job back initially, and then Jim drives home to realize his house now looks like it's out of an IKEA catalog.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, I used your monthly checks. I wasn't drinking it all away. And he goes, you redecorated my house to get me back? And she goes, begging you from payphones wasn't doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But she was begging for more money despite the checks. So, like, this is the first thing where I'm like, she wasn't saving money. She was begging him to send more money besides checks.
Yes.
And then Darlene points out the voicemail he sent her, and he kind of goes like, well. And I was like,
I was going to
sucks.
die, so I was just trying to be nice, I guess.
Then she goes, I'm an idiot. I thought you meant those things. You just wanted to go out the good guy.
Yeah.
Which is like a dressing down Jim needed.
For real.
And then we realized she tried to make dinner and she burned the steaks. But you also point out that she didn't have oven mitts.
She didn't have oven mitts on. She sticks her hands in the oven, which, by the way, she was making steaks in the oven.
I make steaks in the oven.
I mean, grill pan. It's better.
No, what you do is you, like, sear them on each side and then you finish them in the oven so that the outside doesn't get too burned.
Oh, well, do you stick your bare hands in the oven?
No, I don't.
Because they're smoking. And she's like, I burned the steaks. And I just, like, first off, you burn the steaks is real bad. Because that means that you at least wanted them well done, and you messed up. Because you want them well done. What's wrong with you? Two, I think this is meant to imply, because we will get a little bit further deeper into, like, she's acting like a woman from Push.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever they do to these women from Push to make them, like, subservient doesn't come with something that helps them cook.
Okay.
Because Delilah can't make waffles either. So I think might be something going on, maybe because it's so hot and the heat can kill a man in 4 hours, that they just don't know how to cook.
Okay. He goes...
Suspicious reply, Laura.
He goes...
Suspicious reply.
So they're arguing and he goes, those were the happiest years of my life. They were also the saddest. Our marriage failed. And then my next note is, okay, I feel really bad for Darlene, and I don't think we're supposed to feel bad for Darlene, but I do.
Yeah.
I can't tell if the show...
Right.
I can't tell if the show wants us to feel bad for Darlene, but I do feel really bad for her in this moment.
Because everything bad she has done to Jim has happened off camera and has been implied, not explained.
Yeah, like... And then we get this moment where she saw a family at a gas station.
I was at this gas station the other day, buying gas, you know? And I saw this family. There was a little girl, mom, and dad. And the little girl was helping the dad wash the windows, and the mom was pumping the gas, you know? And then the little girl, she tells this silly joke. It's like, knock, knock, who's there? Flower, flower, who? Flower on your head. Like that, you know? It made no sense. But they're laughing their heads off, and I'm riveted like I'm watching a damn movie. And the gas pump thing is beeping at me, asking me if I want a receipt, and I'm just standing there crying.
Wanted that life for herself, and she thought she was done messing up. Now, I'm gonna bring some of my own baggage in here. I, at one point in my life, was in a relationship with somebody who's very, like, black and white, no shades of gray morally.
Mm-hmm.
And it is incredibly difficult to be in that relationship.
Yeah.
And
it's real judgy.
Yeah, so I kind of found myself sympathizing with Darlene because I feel like I was the Darlene in that relationship. And you end up kind of not in a good place mentally because no matter what you do, you feel judged.
Right.
And then we see them in silhouette, and just like we see the couples in Push. And, like, we see them kiss, and then we see Jim kind of lean into her, and they fall out of frame.
Yes.
And the suit guys are standing outside Jim's house, and they go, it's 9:15 on the dot. Case closed.
Yes, and then they drive away and it fades to black. And I remember watching this live going, oh my God, what an amazing ending. Because at this point I knew this was the last episode.
Yeah.
I just turned to my mom and was like, they got him. Like, he thinks he's the hero and he's not. He's trapped in the same, like, loop as all these other people. What a great way to end the show. And my mom went, you know there's like 10 minutes left of this show, right? I was like, no.
And I wanted to bring up here, I have a thing I rant about frequently in fiction called the Bush League supervillain.
Yes.
The supervillain who is too evil to get away with anything.
Mm-hmm.
A big example I use of this is President Snow in Hunger Games. He is unnecessarily cruel. Like, I always talk about it with the Quarter Quell.
Mm-hmm.
Of putting Katniss and Peeta back in the games is bad strategy. He thinks that it'll make Katniss look bad. Peeta gets ahead of him and says Katniss is pregnant. So then everybody understands people making sacrifices to save Katniss because she's a pregnant woman.
Yeah.
My thought is if you were a good supervillain, you just trap Katniss in the golden cage.
Yeah.
You make her Kim Kardashian.
Mm-hmm. She would hate that.
Yeah. It would ruin her life. She doesn't get to be a symbol. No rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
That's what a good supervillain does. That's what they do to Jim here.
Yeah.
I have Jim ultimately falls and is ensnared by the bread and circuses. There's a reason they call it bread and circuses, which Hunger Games even references by calling it panem, which is Latin for bread.
Right.
And then Snow just doesn't do it. I guess because plot. But Jim succumbs to the bread and circuses.
Yeah.
He got the promotion. He might get Grace back to work for him. He got Darlene back. Now she's a good wife and not a drunk.
Yeah. The only thing bothering him is when he has to send in the report.
Well, we get another flashback. This time he's an adult in the car trunk.
Oh, this is a dream.
Yes.
Yes.
But this time he's able to push the trunk open. He is shirtless but wearing a tie, but we get to see his death and taxes tattoo again.
Yeah.
And he's in the Versailles casino, and Delilah says, like, why did you leave me there? And then BRB snaps her neck.
Yeah.
And then Sloman shoots Jim, and Jim wakes up in a cold sweat. He then goes into the bathroom, splashes water in his face, and then Delilah is standing in the kitchen, blank-faced, at the sink.
Yeah, we see her, like, from behind, but she seems to just be staring out the window.
Yes.
And all of a sudden she snaps into, like, making food.
Morning, sunshine, I hope you like waffles. And then I forgot to grease the waffle iron.
Yes.
And he goes like,
I thought your idea of breakfast was coffee and a cigarette.
Oh, well, the new me no longer considers nicotine one of the 4 major food groups.
And Jim's really...
That's a great joke, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Jim's really unnerved, and he's still hung up on who sent the fax. And Jim and Ira go out to lunch together. And Ira's just like...
As much as we try to balance the books, there's always some discrepancies.
This is more than that. See, I still don't know who sent that initial fax. No one in town confessed to being the mole, and I mean, though I have my theories, Yeah, and who paid my bail? You know, is it the same person? Why not reveal themselves? And now that the investigation's over, and unless there's more to it, then...
Hey, file the report. Bury your concerns in the footnotes if that makes you feel better. But send it off and forget about it.
Yeah, but who sent the fax?
And then Jim goes in and Myrna is staring blankly at her computer again. And she goes, I'm on my 10-minute break. 4 boxes have come in. And they're the tax returns from Push. And they're from 1993. Or 1992, rather.
Yeah, they're the ones that were supposedly mixing that
yes.
Grace couldn't find.
And then Jim is weirded out by them, so he goes back to the gun range where Grace is. And Grace is like, you're begging. And he goes, I'm not begging you, I'm telling you. And he goes, Grace, what year did they change the font? And she goes, they changed from Courier to Times New Roman in 1993. Mm-hmm. And he shows her the 1992 tax return, which is in Times New Roman.
Yeah, so they're forgeries.
And she goes, okay, but I have demands. Mm-hmm. And he goes, okay. And she goes, I'm not sending checks to your ex anymore. She just spends them on alcohol.
Yeah.
And then she shoots both hands together 3 times in the heart.
Yeah.
And then he goes, well, you won't have to. It seems like we're going to get back together. And finally Grace goes, they've got a shelf full of self-help books for what's wrong with you. And then she then starts shooting one-handed.
Yes.
And she goes, I'm also not wearing pantyhose in the office anymore. I don't care if they're IRS standard. They're hot and uncomfortable. And then she shoots 3 times, still hitting the target.
Yeah, but with one hand like a badass.
Yeah, she shoots as punctuation. Next note. Why wasn't she the lead? And then I have a note. Jim gets home. And then I have a note. Is Darlene always in red when we see her?
I feel like she may have been in green earlier.
Yeah, I kind of I had this thought of is there Heather's color theory that I just didn't notice because I was looking at other things? And she offers to fix him a cold drink, and I was like, oh no, it's iced tea. And Jim is smiling to himself as Darlene makes him an iced tea, and then he finds Alfred's handkerchief.
Yes.
And we realize the suit guys are watching him in his home.
Yes, and as he stares at his father's handkerchief that, to him, magically appeared in his pocket.
And Jameson Jones goes, that's Alfred Michael Prufrock. He used to work for us. And then that's where the show ends. Mm-hmm. Except we get a break-in from Derek Cecil, who played Jim Prufrock.
Yes.
I don't know how much time he has. He kind of looks like Paul Rudd in this, when he's not Prufrock. And he goes...
Are we on? Hey, my name's Derek Cecil. I played Jim Prufrock on Push Nevada. I don't know how much time we have, so... About a year ago, Sean Bailey and Ben Affleck came to me with a collection of documents detailing a massive conspiracy at a company called Watermark Consolidated. They received these documents anonymously. Now, none of us took it seriously. We just we thought it'd be a good story. We didn't expect that there are powerful people who don't want the full story to be told. Now, I know don't believe anything you see on TV, but believe me, the conspiracy is real. Watermark is real. This is the last episode of Push Nevada. We posted the Watermark documents on www.pushtimes.com. Okay, look. The following words seem to be significant. In order. 5, longitude, underwear, southeast, Bodnik, Elliott. No. Okay, we gotta get out of here. I'll see you again on Monday night. Come on, bud.
Yeah, so basically the show's getting shut down because Watermark is real and the show is blowing up this. So we're blending the lines of reality here. So just 2 quick things I want to bring up about the list of clues that are given at the end of this. First off, the clue for the episode is, in fact, Toyota18.com.
Yeah.
It's the actual website.
It's www.toyota18.com.
Which I think was just Toyota being like... we'll give you more money if you just put this website in. Because we looked, and that website is not available on
Wayback Machine. It was never scrubbed.
I think it just redirected to Toyota. I think.
Or maybe it just redirected to, Push. The Push website.
Maybe. I don't think it actually had any, real content. But there was an interview with the guy who created the puzzles.
Yeah.
And the list was going to be what the puzzles or the clues were in the episodes we never got to see. And he said that his favorite clues that we didn't get to see were for underwear. There was a part where someone was looking for something and they would say, it's under the bed. And they would respond with, underwear? So that was one of the clues. And for longitude, and I think this is real funny, there was going to be a character that wore a shirt that said, I'm with stupid, and with spelled like length and width.
Oh my gosh.
For longitude, I'm with stupid. I just thought that was really fun. So we are told that the final clue will be given at the start of Monday Night Football and replayed at halftime.
Yes.
I don't know if anyone's seeing this, but the key to this whole game is spaces and punctuation count. Don't count the first episode. Then, 5th place first, 9th first, 5th, 7th, 4th first, 2nd, 7th, 5th, and 2nd places in order. I'm gonna have to disappear for a while. We are all being manipulated. Keep up the fight. Good luck.
In the background, you see a sign that is a drawing of an eye equals eye.
Yeah.
I know what's supposed to happen, so I just look to Laura and go, can you figure it out? And Laura goes, can you just tell me? And I said, no! Stop it.
I was so annoyed with you. Because at this point, I just want to be done. Mm-hmm. So it takes a while, but we get it.
Yeah, basically, each position was a letter from the clue, which spelled vaginal.
Yeah, but with an EYE that you turn into an I.
Yeah, so it spells vaginal. You then transpose that into a phone number, and the first person to call in wins $1,045,000.
Yes.
And that's Push Nevada.
So, that's it for our recap. But we have a lot more episode to do. Mm-hmm. So, stick around. We've got... This seems like it should be the ending, but if you're looking at this on your player and going,
yeah, there's a lot of time left.
There's a lot of episode left.
Get ready for stories.
We got some stuff going here. This is actually going to be one of our most heavily researched episodes.
Yeah.
So I just want you to strap in, because there are a lot of unanswered questions in Push Nevada.
Yes. So what happened to this show?
So what happened was CSI.
That makes sense.
CSI happened to this show. ABC and the WB and Fox all banded together because at this point NBC and CBS are juggernauts. This is the era of Survivor, Friends, CSI. Like, they are slaughtering everyone in the ratings. Mm-hmm. So Fox, WB, and ABC go like, let's start our season a week early, and maybe we'll get people to like our shows.
Yeah, we'll hook them in early.
Yes, that is absolutely
It's a great strategy, honestly.
And 12 million people watched the first episode of Push Nevada.
That's pretty good.
So the first episode airs on a Tuesday.
Rather than a Thursday, which is their normal time.
Yeah, and the second episode does air on the Thursday slot that they intended for it. They run 2 episodes the first week.
Okay.
And it was paired with a show called That Was Then, which we may see in a future episode because it was canceled after only 2 episodes.
Right.
And ABC executives knew Push Nevada had a lot of buzz behind it, so they were... This is the same season as Firefly. That's something I really want to point out right now. They are telling people that they are going to have all kinds of patience. They are going to try to keep the show running as long as they can, even with the bad time slot. Because when they announced the time slot, a bunch of advertisers look at Ben Affleck and go, oof, sorry, dude.
Yeah, you're up against CSI in its prime.
And ABC is promising that they are going to try to keep the show running as long as it can. There is a plan in place for continuing the series after a 13th episode story arc in Nevada. If enough viewers are intrigued, Jim Prufrock will move on to another mystery for the second half of the season in Push Somewhere Else. For however long the series runs, it intends to keep setting mysteries in towns named Push. Presumably, Agent Prufrock may notice the coincidence.
Yeah, so he was going to head to Push another state.
Yeah, it is suggested the second batch of episodes may take place in Push, Alaska.
Okay.
And this also ties into the I want 3 cases with no supervision. That's your season.
Those are your seasons.
So
you're off to Push, Delaware.
I do love the idea that they were going to not have a full season be each town. Because I always think that you're better off telling a shorter story well.
Yeah, I agree.
I call it the Riverdale problem. Mm-hmm. The first season of Riverdale told one story in 13 episodes well, and then the next 5 seasons went completely off the rails.
Now, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Because you mentioned this. Did they specifically say they were not going to go to New Jersey?
They do. They say in the New York Times, New York Times says New Jersey. ABC does not say New Jersey.
Okay, it's just interesting that they're like, there will be no Push New Jersey.
Which shows they've never been to the Pine Barrens.
Yeah, for real.
And they say if Push gains a tiny but loyal audience, the series will stay on air. But it can't lose viewers during the course of the hour. Otherwise, we'll keep it if it gets a 2. He says, referring to a ratings number so minuscule, it would send most new shows into oblivion overnight. The 4th episode, The Color Of... Or is that the 4th episode?
I think that's the 3rd episode.
Okay, the 3rd episode, The Color Of, had 4.4 million viewers, which is a 1.3. Not a 2.
Not a 2.
And they say 2 is a low number that would be upsetting.
Yeah.
So it's not even performing at that level. So the show does get canceled after the 4th episode because they cannot afford to keep running it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they would do a thing where they would show the prior week's episode at 8 o'clock.
Right.
So if you missed it, they wanted to give you a chance to watch the previous one because this is so episodic and dependent.
Yeah, they don't want continuity lockout, and they want everyone to get a chance to find the clues.
Yes. I think a key strategic error here is this was a show that needed to do the 2-hour pilot movie.
100%. Because I said that in the other episode where, like, the cliffhanger of the 2nd episode is so much better than the first one.
Yeah.
That I was like, you needed to run these together. Granted, that means you're doing 2 clues, which would be a little confusing. But
later they start, like...
Yeah, we saw how this ended. So I did find that really interesting that they had promised they were going to try to let it run, and then... But they set it up to fail, and Ben Affleck even says, like, they set the show up to fail by putting it against CSI. Yeah. And as part of that, like, 1.3 that were hardcore into this show and, like, would spend time analyzing every moment on message boards and stuff like that, we were crushed.
Oh.
We were crushed by this. Because I remember after the 2nd episode, 2nd or 3rd episode, someone posting, like, what if this show gets canceled? And we were just like, we can't let that happen. We must stand up for our Push Nevada. And we didn't stand up enough.
The show got very mixed reviews. A lot of people didn't care for it. The New York Times liked everything but Mary.
Yeah, Mary's pretty terrible.
Mary's definitely the weakest part of the show. Unfortunately, she was heavily marketed as the female lead.
Yes.
I think this is a clever decoy. Because I think... Grace is really the second lead.
Yeah, I could totally see that.
I think they're going for future episodes. We're going to have more of an X-Files-y feel of Grace and Prufrock together.
Yeah. And I want to say, like, in terms of your reaction to it, it seemed to me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that this wasn't your favorite show. But I remember we had a conversation where you were like, I wish there was more comedy. And I was like, I think there's plenty of comedy. And you kind of had this view that the things that I saw as comedy, you just kind of saw as stupid.
I saw as incompetence.
As incompetence, yes. And I was like, reframe that in your mind as comedy. And I think you started to enjoy the show more after that.
Yeah.
I don't think it became your favorite show.
No.
But, like, you saw a little bit more of its value when it was like, oh, the stuff that is incompetent is a joke.
I think a big turning point for me is... Dawn being in on it and realizing Dawn is all affectation.
Yes.
And then that made her character so much more fun.
Yes. Because that's the word I would use to describe this show. I found this show a lot of fun. I don't think it's brilliantly written. I don't think it's gonna, like, win any awards. It doesn't. We know that. We're in the future. But I remember the whole time being like, this is fun.
I think the show... I think a weak first episode really hurt this show. Because I started to care more about everybody later on, but I think the first episode is kind of weak.
Yeah.
It's easily the worst of the 7.
And yeah, and all the, like I've been saying, like, they ask a lot of questions that are not multiple choice. They're open-ended, so there's not a lot to discuss, because the answer could be anything. Like, when it comes to, let's just take a small mystery that doesn't get touched on nearly enough. What's in the north wing of the hotel? The answer to that, based on what we see, based on just the show, could literally be anything. Like, it could be Frankenstein's lab. It could be the site of the explosion where, what's his name's family died? Shadrach's family died. It could be an army of vampires. It could be...
Area 51.
It could be the staircase that leads down to Watermark. All of those are equally as plausible because we don't know what the bounds of the show are.
Yeah.
We don't know if this show is supernatural or if it's a crime drama.
Yeah.
And, like, the fact that we're lacking all this stuff, we're left to speculate without, like, any type of boundary that, like, it could be anything. And it gets so much better when, like, Dawn is either good or evil. and thus we can discuss it using facts and evidence from the show. So, the thing I want to say about this show is I really did love it, and I was part of like a big community here. And there's a bunch of websites that come up in this. There's Push Times, which we mentioned. There is Enoch Online, which we don't talk about much because a lot of it's gone. But that was supposed to be a writer from the Push Times that were kind of like feeding us information. Mm-hmm. There was like speedhunting.com or something was like the hunting lodge was there. The Watermark website was real. You could do all that stuff. So we're all like super invested in this. And then when it was canceled, you just kind of went to the site and there was a pop-up that was like, if you want to know what happens at Push Nevada, read The Push Experiment, which was this book. And there was something wrong with my computer that I couldn't download this PDF.
Okay.
But I always wanted to read this book. And I've honestly been searching for this book since the show. Just, I wanted it so badly because it's like this incomplete part of my life. And I was never able to find it. Like right before the podcast, I searched, and there was a paperback copy being sold on Amazon for $90. I was like, I'm not paying $90. And like, there's a few like bogus links I ended up clicking on that wanted my credit card information and stuff like that. But I will say this, as someone who loved Push Nevada, who never found out what the Bible did, it kind of makes sense for me as a Push Nevada fan to still be searching for a book. So guys, Laura found the book.
I found it in like 10 minutes.
She found it almost immediately.
I feel real bad now that you did this like whole big lead up.
And let me tell you, I had this speech written before we watched episode 1 of this. I was like, that's how I'll end. Man, I've been searching for this book for all my life, and they're looking for a Bible. It's kind of poetic. And then Laura's sitting next to me and goes, found the book. So Laura has found The Push Experiment, which is this book, which was like meant to tie up all the loose ends for the fans of Push Nevada of what's going on in Push Nevada. I didn't read it. Laura did, so we could talk about it right now on the show.
Yes.
Let it be known this is not my story. I have a story for later still.
Yeah, guys, strap in.
Okay.
Because
I'm so excited for this.
I know everything.
Yeah.
Push Nevada is designed as the ultimate advertising test market.
Okay.
That's why it's carefully controlled, and that's why everyone is carefully monitored. The monitoring equipment in every home is meant to last 30 years. All money in Push is counterfeit.
Okay.
It's all traceable. It's all traceable currency that's laundered through the Versailles. BRB brings in this fake currency every Monday and takes real money out every Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
There is the book is framed through the story of T.S. Griffin, who is one of the designers of the Push Nevada experiment.
Okay.
And he has cancer and he's running out of time. So he wants to get his story out there before he passes away.
All right.
So he talks about his partner in the experiment, a consumer research expert named Alfred Michael Prufrock.
Okay, so his dad was in charge of creating Push Nevada with this guy.
Yeah, with T.S. Griffin.
Okay.
And Prufrock is trying to case places to look for where this experiment is going to be. He looks at Native American reservations and then kind of dismisses them because it's not the demographic the advertisers want. And he actually mentioned specifically Celebration, Florida, and accuses Disney of corporate espionage, which I told you last night when I was reading it because it made me laugh.
Yes.
But I didn't tell you why. And Missouri, which is also an original intended site for Disney.
Really?
Yeah. There's a story about Disney World being dry, and Walt is having this conversation with all these Missouri politicians. This one Missouri politician opens his stupid mouth about it being dry, and then that's what gets Missouri crossed off the list.
Wow. That's interesting, because I know that Peter Pan was a clue because they were kind of hinting at this, like, Disney watermark connection.
Yes.
That's what the guy in the interview said. So this is very fascinating.
And then they liked Push because Push has its own exit off the highway. So you don't nobody goes through Push. You're only going to Push if you want to go there.
Okay.
And BRB's route kind of intentionally leads him to patrol the highway. And one of the reasons they like Job is that Job gets people on their way if they don't belong in Push.
Oh, all right. That makes sense.
Job is exactly who he says he is. Job is an honest mechanic. He repairs more than he buys new parts. He charges a fair rate. And he does not gamble. All of Job's money comes from being a mechanic.
Interesting.
Making him fairly unique among the residents of Push.
So he's actually, like, unaware.
No.
Oh, okay.
Job, it's implied Job may know what's going on. But Job does not talk much. So they just kind of let Job be. Al Prufrock is not dead.
Okay. Is he the invalid?
He is not.
Ah!
He faked his death on purpose. Because they were starting to see what was happening to non-compliant persons in Push. Mm-hmm. And when Griffin and Prufrock realized that they were indirectly responsible, because Griffin would make lists of people who were not, like, complying, and then those people would mysteriously die.
Right.
And when they made that connection, Prufrock recognized that his family was in danger after Shadrach's family dies.
Right.
So he fakes his own death because he doesn't want anything to happen to Janine or Jim.
Okay.
So we'll get back to Al Prufrock in a minute.
Okay.
So they want to make this essentially consumer town where it's the ultimate consumer research project. So the other person in charge of this is Jameson Jones.
Right.
And they talk about Watermark being sold from one parent company to another.
Right.
So I think that's where that symbol Grace found comes in. Yeah. That's one of those parent companies.
Mm-hmm. The competition.
Yes. And we find out why they haven't filed their taxes. There's an IRS tax loophole. Watermark pays all of the taxes owing to a loophole called the Defective Grantor Trust.
Okay.
And that's why none of them have 1040s, because Watermark considers it a gift because all of the money in Push is fake.
Interesting. So because everything's a gift card.
Essentially.
All right.
And Watermark got into citizens' homes through cable installation, telecommunications, movers. You know, like the ones who might install entirely new furniture in someone's home.
All right, gotcha.
Exterminators, mechanics, but not Job. Cleaning crews, babysitters, and delivery people. They actually intended the two diners in Push to compete with one another so they could see how they could manipulate messaging.
Oh, cool.
And because of the way the money is set up and how they can set it up, people in Push can be stimulated to shop as much or as little as Watermark likes based on what they win at the Versailles.
God, okay. So, all right. So it's basically Facebook.
Yes.
Except they also are in charge of how much money they have to spend.
Yes.
All right.
So it starts to unravel a little bit because, like, Prufrock and I like the Disney connection because Prufrock and Griffin think of themselves as Walt Disney. And if you know anything about the Epcot project, the experimental prototype community of tomorrow,
yes,
Epcot is not unlike what Push turns out to be.
Mm-hmm.
Damn. And Al Prufrock buys off Sloman and makes the Chicken Ranch into the Slow Dance Bar and even gives them a list of not too suggestive songs because they want to attract the right kind of people to Push. So even though prostitution has always been legal in Nevada, they didn't want that element.
Right.
And they actually pay Sloman handsomely every quarter for running it as a slow dance bar instead of a chicken ranch. That's how he makes more money with it being a slow dance bar.
Interesting.
Watermark pays him.
Okay.
And Griffin kind of points out that things start to get too aggressive. They use mental conditioning aggressively on the citizens of Push to program the internal clocks of people to shop, work, and have intercourse at the same time every night. Because the chief of police declared, intercourse should be regular, quick, and early enough in the evening that both parties know what they're doing. So this is all mental conditioning.
So they've been so it's kind of subliminal messaging has made it that they have sex at 9:15.
Yes.
Interesting.
And Watermark is able to change slang and fashion through advertising. And they talk about all the ways people lie to themselves and each other. And the examples they used are classic. They lie about working out, what books they've read, how much TV their kids are allowed to watch. And Watermark is considering, at this time, making more push towns, but without the monitoring.
Okay.
I think also because it would have been inconvenient if they were able to do the show again. Maybe they don't want everything to be monitored.
Right.
And Prufrock and Griffin were hopeful about the town doing great things. They're looking at this in this very Walt Disney way.
Right.
Which I made the Epcot connection while we were talking, and I was like, oh. They did character profiles about everybody, and I like I said, this was an 88 or 160 page book. It was an 88 page PDF. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of running through.
I got you.
I'm speed running here. BRB and Delilah. Let's talk about them for a minute.
Sure.
How do you think people get together and push?
I'm guessing, because if everything is kind of subliminally messaged, I'm guessing everything is kind of arranged.
Yep.
So I'm guessing this was an arranged marriage that they don't even realize is arranged. It's almost Truman Showy.
That's true for everyone else. BRB asked Sloman to help him win Delilah over.
Oh, gross.
So Watermark, they would kind of appeal to specific people because they said Watermark didn't really want to watch guys strike out all the time. So they would condition people to be attracted to each other. So
it's literally Truman Show.
Yeah, so they conditioned Delilah to be attracted to BRB and also to kind of want domestic life. And you could kind of get the impression the family at the gas station is intended to start doing this to Darlene.
Oh, crap. That's really good. That's really good.
And the Darlene thing is not mentioned in the book. That's the connection I'm making.
That's still really good, though.
And that's why they're bad homemakers. Because nothing's teaching them how to cook. They just know they're supposed to be able to.
Okay.
And they make a note that Delilah's programming appears to be deteriorating. She's starting to act out against it. Mm-hmm. She's also canonically bisexual.
Oh.
She's attracted to a female yoga instructor we don't meet on screen. And the person writing this, Griffin, considers her a potential linchpin to bring down Push because she's the link to BRB, who is the money.
Gotcha.
And BRB is the only person in Push Nevada who requested his own marriage. Everyone else is engineered.
Right.
Now, BRB does not know what they did to her.
So, because most of the people in Push Nevada are unaware of the experiment.
Right. And BRB does not know that there was aggressive psychological conditioning happening to Delilah.
Okay.
I don't want you to think he's
evil.
Yeah. She was also close friends with Mary because both of them were repeatedly sexually abused by Sloman.
Okay.
Sloman stopped abusing Delilah once she left being a slow dance girl and married BRB.
Okay.
Mary is truly desperate to leave Push because of her father's abuse, which started when she turned 15 and started to look too much like her mother, who is dead. And she doesn't like other women, and she hasn't been close to Delilah since she married BRB.
Okay.
Other notes I have here. Martha was a Sloman's girl. She was
Martha? Really?
Yes. Before. She was a Sloman's girl back when it was the Chicken Ranch.
Okay.
And she was close friends with Alfred Prufrock. Mm-hmm. And Griffin speculates the relationship may have been romantic.
Okay. So they kind of had the relationship that Jim has with Mary.
I would argue
but better.
No. He has more of the relationship Jim has with Grace.
Okay.
because the reason Martha's house looks so great on the inside is because she's getting paid off by Watermark. The North Wing was the original observational hub of the town.
Okay.
So that's why and they never got rid of it. It's just cordoned off.
All right.
And Griffin observes the town from this old observation. So Sloman has pornographic pictures of Mary and Delilah for blackmail. Bodnick was not sleeping with Mary, but really wanted everybody to think he was. And Oswald Wilkes was a terrible person.
and the town is glad to be rid of him.
And Dawn genuinely was trying to redeem herself with this big case.
Okay.
And she did date someone in Push briefly, but she broke things off with him because she couldn't focus on bringing Sloman down. She dated a teacher in Push.
All right.
The Bible. Okay, so the Bible.
Yes, I need to know what this Bible is. Because I had that it was like a pin card thing that you fed the pages in. That was my theory.
Correct.
Yes! Oh my god! I want you to understand that I just got redeemed from something for 20 years ago. Where I was like, guys, I think it's like a Scantron thing.
What do you think it is?
I think it is what was my original idea? It was a Scantron of the people or something.
Okay.
It was a way to identify the people. I definitely thought it was going to be fed into a machine and then it read the pinholes.
You're right on that aspect.
Okay.
It is half of the kill code for the Push experiment.
Oh, so it's the halt and catch fire command.
Yeah, it's Griffin's half. Prufrock also had half of it. Whereabouts unknown.
Interesting. I actually really like that.
So Shadrach did have a complete mental break, but he's starting to come back to himself with the arrival of Jim Prufrock.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he's starting to make more sense and be more and more coherent.
Yeah.
Because Prufrock is bringing back his purpose.
Mm-hmm.
We learn some things about characters we never meet.
Okay.
We learn about Quentin Xavier, who's a folklore professor who has a weird occult store.
The occult store? Yes, we know him.
Yeah.
The players knew about him.
Oh.
Before he showed up in town.
Oh, he's friends with my girl Eunice.
Okay.
And we also learned, do you know who the Van Gestel family is?
It rings a bell.
They have a very sad story. They're all dead.
Okay.
I'm not going to get into it because this is a long episode.
Yeah, it's already long and we still have a lot to talk about.
And so Martha is still being paid for the space of the North Wing. Watermark is just still paying her. And that's why everything looks really nice. The man she is caring for is Griffin himself, who faked a stroke.
Oh, okay.
He's legitimately dying of cancer now in this part of the timeline, but he faked the stroke several years ago because Watermark wouldn't look for him if he was indisposed. They might look for him if he was quote, quote, dead.
Gotcha. All right.
And Prufrock is still out there somewhere. And for the first time, on October 17th, which is after the 4th episode in the cancellation, they confirm that the town of Push is being dismantled. And people are starting to get job offers in other places.
All right.
And for the first time, both Prufrock and Griffin had started offshore accounts. And for the first time, there was activity in Prufrock's account. Implying that, getting Prufrock's son involved, he is now coming back as a player on the board.
Okay. So that would imply to me that he is not the one who sent the fax, because that was my original...
Griffin sent the fax.
Griffin sends the fax. Okay.
Griffin sent the fax from the control room where he could make the fax look like it came from anywhere.
Okay, because I will say, during this entire time when I was watching it, I spent the whole time looking for a fax machine, because I never saw one.
It was in the North Wing.
Okay.
So I'm so excited that I found that.
That's incredible.
Yeah, It's really interesting, and that it explains Martha's connection to Alfred. It explains why Martha is so kind to Jim.
Mm-hmm.
Because Jim is also implied to look and act a lot like his father.
Mm-hmm.
So Martha cares a lot for Jim.
Okay.
I know you had a theory that Martha could be Jim's mother, but that is not true.
Yeah. I forgot that we do see his mother.
I mean, he's also like not the product of an affair or anything.
Yeah. That's incredible. Thank you for sharing that with me.
So that's it's 160 pages. I boiled it down to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
This is my book report.
Yeah, we'll include a link.
Yeah, I just sent it to you via Facebook because I wanted to wait to send it to you until after we... We actually use a phrase around here, save it for the customers.
Save it for the customers.
So that's everything you never found out that you wanted to know. It means a lot to me that I was able to like do that for you.
Yeah, it feels good. So I have a story.
Yeah?
So here's the thing, guys. I was a junior in high school during all of this, and I loved Push Nevada. I spent so much time just talking to these people about theories and stuff like that. And I spent a lot of time on the message board, which was a Yahoo group about Push Nevada.
Oh, I loved Yahoo groups.
Yes, there was a link on Push Times, I believe, or Enoch, that led to this Yahoo group. And
I used to do all my Harry Potter RPGs there.
My mom was super into it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we would share my AIM screen name to talk about Push Nevada. My AIM screen name was Deform Uncle Louie.
Okay.
All right. And like I remember we talked to some people. I remember a girl named Tanoki that I spoke to, and a guy named Thaddeus, who was a crazy person who would send us like... He sent us, like, cult information. Okay. I just remember some religion he was part of. He's like, read this, it'll change your life. And me and my mom would, like, talk to this guy a lot. My mom printed out, like, conversations she had with Thaddeus. It was all this crazy stuff. And I just wanted more and more Push Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
And early in the run, I got invited to another Yahoo group called Sloan's Slow Dance Bar, which was an RP board.
Oh, RP boards!
Which I didn't know what that was. But they were like, all right, yeah, you just got to come up with a character.
That's where I spent all my time.
Because I'm an amazing comedian.
Oh, no.
I came up with the character Jake Fakestone from Poole, New Jersey.
That's so dumb. I love it.
And I showed up and I was like, my name is Jake Fakestone. I'm looking for evidence and stuff like that. And then like all these girls would role play back like, oh, come on, dance with me. You know, I give you a little kiss on the neck. And I go, no, I'm here for evidence. Like, don't get in my way of my case. I don't believe in stuff like that. Because I thought Jim Prufrock was cool and I wanted to be him. So I made my own version named Jake Fakestone. Amazing. So I slowly start to realize that this RP board is not for me.
No, it's all... RP boards tended to be lonely teenage girls.
Yeah, it's not for me. So, but I get all these ideas about this idea of Poole, New Jersey. And at the time, I'm in a film class in high school. So, I start writing a parody.
Okay.
Called Poole, New Jersey. And I think it's incredible. All right? Just so you know. Jake Fakestone, like, I'm following all the beats of the show. But everything's a little twisted and funny. Instead of BRB picking him up and he's a trucker, it's a clown named LOL. I had this whole bit about how Jobs was actually pronounced Job.
Okay.
And he was just like, why does everyone call me Job? It clearly says Job on the sign. And that was a whole bit. Oswald Wilkes, I forget what name I gave him, but instead of having a serpent tattoo, he actually was missing an arm.
Oh my god, I just realized the assassin was Oswald Wilkes.
Oh my god, me too. We have seen assassins.
Okay, in my defense, I haven't been watching this show for 20 years.
Yeah, that's true. But like, I had him missing an arm just so I could have Jake say it wasn't me, it was the one-armed man. Thought that was hilarious.
Okay.
There was the whole bit was they constantly just still kept saying, it's hotter than it looks out there. The heat will kill you in 4 hours. And Jake would go, in New Jersey? It's snowing. So, like, I had this whole, like, story, and I was on this, like, message board, like, kind of, like, mentioning that I was writing this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, I think I'm going to try to make it. Does anybody want to see it?
Okay.
And, like, a few people were interested. And I didn't, this is before YouTube.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, the people who are interested in this, give me your address and I will send you VHS copies of what I make.
Oh my God.
So I get like, I don't know, 10 names of these people who are like really interested in this. And then Push Nevada gets canceled.
Okay.
And I kind of say on these message boards again, like, hey, I'm making a parody. I don't think it'll be a replacement, but if you want to continue with like Push Nevada like stuff, check out Pool, New Jersey. Here's my email address. And like I was also gonna like put clues and stuff, and it was also still gonna be a game.
Okay.
All right. So I made that clear. I was like, it'll still be a game, it'll be fun and stuff like that. I get a message from Thaddeus.
Okay.
He goes, hey, is your real name Louis? And I go, no. When Louis is just a fun name. He goes, oh, what's your real name?
Nope.
And like, it's 2002 on the internet. I'm like, I'm not going to tell you my real name. I was like, I'd rather not say. Mm-hmm. And he goes, is it Ben? And I was like, all right, or he says, I know what your real name is. And I'm like, what? And he goes, it's Ben. And I was like, all right, I'm better off with him thinking my name is Ben than him knowing my real name. And I was like, yeah, it's Ben. And he goes, I knew it. And he signs off.
Oh, no.
I want to bring you back to the Sprint commercial that we saw.
Okay.
Everyone was like, we know there are clues in the commercials, and we can't find anything in the Sprint commercial.
Right.
In the Sprint commercial, in the background on the windows is a sign for lottery tickets.
Okay.
New Jersey lottery tickets.
Noah.
Yeah. So, I happened to go to the unfiction boards, which were not the boards I usually hung out with, but this was just like an ARG board.
Okay.
And they had all this stuff for Push Nevada. And I click on it, and towards the top of the page is a post for Pool, New Jersey that I didn't put there. I should also mention, I suddenly had like 100 people sign up for these like VHS tapes.
Oh my God. Which you couldn't do because you were 100 people. You were a kid.
Like, I was a kid that was going to mail VHS copies of a multiple episode show I was going to make with a camera I borrowed from school.
I want to point out, you know what the other thing we watched, the other ad that was always in those ad breaks? It was The Ring, Noah.
Which, yeah, I guess, yeah, they might think that VHS tapes were a clue.
Yeah.
That's I didn't even consider that. So
I wouldn't have watched that tape if you paid me.
I go onto this board, and it's Thaddeus. And Thaddeus is like, I'm pretty sure that the cancellation of Push Nevada is part of the show. And it's going to continue through these tapes called Pool, New Jersey. I talked to the guy who set this up, and he admitted to me that his name is Ben. I think it's Ben Affleck. On top of that, sometimes when he logs on, it's not him, it's his mom. And his mom recently told me she won big at a casino in Atlantic City. Around this time, Ben Affleck's mom won big in Atlantic City. So this weird comedy of errors happens where there's this group of fanatics that now believe I'm Ben Affleck, and I'm going to put forth the actual conclusion to Push Nevada. And I'm like, well, I could correct them.
Or
I could really pursue this and maybe create something really cool. So I start getting all these messages, and people are asking me all these questions on AIM, and I'm responding really dodgy. And I'm like, I have to tell my mom, like, hey, if anyone asks you this, this is how you have to respond. And she's like, okay.
Oh
so,
my God.
I'm doing all this stuff. I'm getting all these addresses. And then I distinctly remember this person telling me, and because there's also this whole thing of like, we have to give this guy our addresses. So I'm getting like people's home addresses.
Jesus.
I get this one person who has a lot of questions. And I'm like, I'm being cagey, but like I'm giving them information. Like, yeah, it's going to create this thing. You're going to get VHS copies, all this stuff. And I was like, well, just sign up. And the person's like, again, being dodgy with the questions. And then they're like, all right, fine, I'll sign up. And they give me an address, or they give me their email address. And they're from Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And the email address is like something at Disney Castle. And I remember being like, at Disney Castle? That's weird. Go to school. I come back and I got a cease and desist from Disney. Because I was impersonating that I was creating the rest of their show. So I got a Disney cease and desist.
Oh, man.
So now I have to come out and I'm like, hey, everyone, this has been fun. I was really working on this project. I'm not really from ABC. I'm not Ben Affleck. I just thought this was some fun. But I got a cease and desist, so I'm going to stop. Nobody buys it. Everyone's like, oh, sure.
Sure, the man shutting you down.
Sure, yeah. Oh, are you getting shut down too? Are you? So I still get people signing up on these emails. And I'm like, no, it's not me. It's like, this isn't true. And then I'm like, listen, I'm not Ben Affleck. My name is Noah. At the time, there was a plant from the
Noah Body thing!
Yeah, named Noah Body that ended up being like a weird sequel to Push Nevada. That's not like, it's like a spiritual sequel that's more of like the puzzles and stuff.
Okay.
So now the group of people's like, it's Noah. Of course. So now they're more involved. And then the contest ends and somebody wins. And it's a guy from New Jersey. So everyone's like, it makes sense. This is going to be the act. Like, how brilliant of Disney to hide all this stuff. We're going to get VHS copies of Pool, New Jersey, which is actually going to be the unreleased episodes of Push Nevada. Now, I had to sit there and be like, no, guys, I'm just a child.
So this is a great pitch for a film in and of itself. Of like this is a Galaxy Quest-esque film.
Yeah, so this is the story I've been holding on to for years because like no one gives a shit about this story because nobody cared about Push Nevada. But I'm like, no, there was a time where people thought I was Ben Affleck and I got a cease and desist from Disney. I almost got sued by Disney.
I never knew you got a cease and desist from Disney. And I've known you for over 10 years.
Yes. So, and like, I don't have it anymore because everything was through my personal email address, which was hbkforever@hotmail, which I no longer have.
Oh.
So, like, but I used to have a cease and desist that was like, hey, you need to knock this off.
Oh, man.
Not Ben Affleck.
Oh, if it was worded funny enough, it would be framed in our home.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I had to tell my film teacher. Because I told my film teacher, like, this is the project I want to work on. He was like, sure. And I had to be like, listen, Mr. McCleary, I got a cease and desist from Disney. I can no longer attempt this project. All right.
If I were your teacher, I would have probably considered taking the cease and desist as your submission.
Well, what I ended up doing, because, like, this was at a time where I was at my most insane with like, my ideas. This was, like, one of many insane projects I had going on. And what my final was for this class was something called street magic with Brian Sane.
Okay.
And I just went out and I did street magic.
With Brian Zane?
Brian Sane, yes. Not the guy from Wrestling with...
Okay, that's what I was like,
Because instead of being David Blaine, it was Brian Sane.
Right,
and the idea that insane was in there.
I thought you said Zane, because I thought it was the Wrestling with a Regret guy, and I was like, okay, this is a lot of weird coincidences piling on top of each other.
So, I actually made this street magic video, where I was just like in a Kmart, like, pick a card. And it came out okay, but I put commercials in there. And there was a commercial for Poole, New Jersey in it. Because I had planned on, like, making all this. And then my semester, like, I had block scheduling. So, like, my semester ended in December. And, like, things had gotten out of hand. And I was like, okay, guys, I'm going to have to pull the plug on this. So, yeah, that was the crazy story. One of my bests.
That is crazy. That is a lot of fun.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's Poole, New Jersey, and that's Push, Nevada. Other than the fact that we have not given it a verdict.
I think I'm going to surprise you with this one.
Yeah?
I think it's a stay tuned.
Really?
Yeah.
It got you in the end.
I really liked where the show was gonna go.
Yeah.
I really loved the idea of the show becoming Prufrock and Grace getting kind of like more down the rabbit hole. Because most of the things I didn't like about the show, admittedly, were things like Mary.
Yeah.
That were...
And eventually they're going to leave Nevada and have...
Yeah, and like the idea of getting rid of those characters and now getting deeper in. And I gotta say, the book really turned me around on it. Because I was like, oh, there was a plan.
Yeah. Because I will say, the beginning of this feels like they're throwing spaghetti at the wall.
Yes.
And it's just like a bunch of random stuff happening. I can admit that as much as I love this show, it does not start strong.
Mm-hmm.
And does not seem like it has a clear direction of where it's going. That's why I think the reveal of like the mules and stuff in episode 7 is like really good. Because I was like, oh, that actually makes a lot of sense. I did not expect this show to make sense out of nowhere.
Yeah.
For me, it's definitely a stay tuned. Just because like you only got half of the experience.
Yes.
To me, what this show was hanging out online on message boards, dissecting every little like bit from it, and like, you know, creating my own little world. Yeah, so that's gonna do it for Push Nevada.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we finally did this episode. This has been on the list since like day one of Stay Tuned.
Yeah, and I'm really excited for what it turned into. I'm really excited that we were able to find all of this really cool information about it.
Yeah, because it's pretty much scrubbed. Like, there's not a lot on this show.
No, and like, this was such a quiet show that there's not even a lot of stuff for it.
Yeah.
The only thing that's out there are a few pins that ABC used as giveaways.
Really?
Yep.
Cool. Did you just buy Push Nevada pins?
I bought us Push Nevada.
Yay!
They are limited edition 250.
Really?
Yeah, they were surprisingly not that expensive for... I got the postcard greetings from Push Nevada, and I've got the sign that said, "You are now leaving Push Nevada."
Incredible. Incredible. This has gone way better than I could have possibly imagined this episode going. We found the book. We got pins. I told a story about Disney cracking down on the little guy. Great times. So now I ask you, what are we watching next week?
Next week we're watching another old talking dog show.
Let's make a hard left out of Push Nevada here.
We were watching Rosie,
Yes.
which is a 1960s pilot about a talking dog.
Yes, as voted by our wonderful patrons. Be sure to join our Patreon so you can join in on these fun conversations and have a voice in what we cover on the show. And speaking of helping us choose what we're watching, it's time once again for you guys to choose what we are going to be watching for our Crowd Fun Crypt, which is our Patreon exclusive show. Every month you guys get to choose what we're going to be doing, and this is the poll for this month. And this month, I mean September. What's going to happen is this poll will appear on Twitter, and then our Patreons will vote between the top 2 of the Twitter poll, and that will be the Crowd Fun Crypt episode for September. Here are your choices. First, we have the runner-up for August. It's Shark Rumble, which is a show about shark fights hosted by WWE superstar Drew McIntyre and the monster and rival of the Stay Doomed show, Luke Tipple. Also, we have a suggestion from our crowdfund Cryptkeeper, Mathew. He would like us to cover the English game show Nightmare. Laura's suggestion for the month is she has found what she is calling a slime tutorial, which is code for bootleg copy of Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark. Yes, the U2 musical about Spider-Man, Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark. We will watch and review that. And finally, this is an idea I've had kicking around in my mind, and I thought about making it a separate podcast, but I thought I'd try it out first here on the Crowdfund Crypt. It is a show I'm calling Blank VHS. This is where Laura and I buy a random VHS from a thrift store or a Goodwill, and we just review whatever's on it. So, will we get a cursed item? Will we be watching someone else's home movies? Or did someone just tape a few hours of the Discovery Channel? We don't know. So we will review a random VHS tape. The choices are yours and yours alone. Please vote on Twitter. And now, back to the show. Thank you to Crowdfund Cryptkeeper Mathew for helping keep the lights on here. Where can people find us?
You can email us at thestaydoomedshow@gmail.com or on Facebook and Twitter at Stay Doomed.
And if you watched Push Nevada live and remember anything about playing these games, or maybe some weird guy that people thought was Ben Affleck, I'm at +2 Comedy.
If you are the research department and you freaking earned it this time, I'm at Sprocket League. Until next time, stay doomed.